No. Okay, why are y'all people up? I must know. How are you doing, Shelly C and in Harmon in the building? The first two people here, and probably the only two people who will be here this time of night or morning, I should say. And hello to the people in the bushes and the clouds. Hope everybody is having a good night. I am on here because, of course, I did not go to sleep until almost five. Shay, what's up? I didn't go to sleep until almost, I think it was something after 4 this afternoon. So, and I didn't wake up till almost 10. So I am here. Um, hey, okay, Shay, I got you. Nola Brown, The Real Brown Family Chronicles, and Mocha Wine. Y'all are all here in the building. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to do a couple of news stories first that I just found to be very, very interesting. Hey, Miss Lorraine and El Diva. Um, excuse me. I saw some things and I was actually preparing for tomorrow's live, but I'm here, so we're going to do this right now. We're going to get these out the way, and then we are going to do um, a jail visit, and that's going to be all. We're not going to be on here no 3 hours tonight. It ain't going to happen. So here we go. Let me share my screen so we can get into the shenanigans that are going on in the world today. It's really a shame. Oh my goodness. I just can't believe y'all are still up. Are these my down? Yep, these are my downloads. Uh, I've been hot all day too. Has anybody else been hot? And I don't know. I don't know what the weather's been outside because I haven't been there, but I have been hot all day. So here we go. Let's get into this first news story about this judge. I don't know. I think in Michigan. Let's listen to her foolishness. I had put something about this on my community wall. So we're going to get into this nonsense. And we're going to talk about it for a few minutes and move on. Did I say hi to Nola Brown? Can't remember.
We begin tonight with a judge who makes life-altering decisions for offense and using shocking, derogatory language. Thank you for joining us for 7 News Detroit at 6. I'm Mike Duffy. 7 investigator Heather Catallo joins us now with more about why an Oakland County probate judge has been removed from her docket. Heather?
Like a high-ranking probate court official says he's been recording Judge Kathleen Ryan's statements for years. Even though probate court administrator Edward Hutton says he's been harassed by Judge Ryan, he says he does not want this to be about him. Hutton says he's coming forward now because he wants to protect the people who have to face Judge Ryan in the courtroom.
The Honorable Kathleen A. Ryan presiding.
Good morning. You may be seated.
After more than 13 years on the bench, Oakland County Chief Probate Pro Tem Judge Kathleen Ryan is out of her courtroom. Chief Probate Judge Linda Hallmark removed Judge Ryan from her docket last week announcing that a complaint about internal allegations of unprofessional conduct was sent to the Judicial Tenure Commission. Judge Ryan was arrested in 2021 for domestic violence, but those charges were later dismissed. And now she's back in the headlines.
Well, if you're black from any other country, you're doing way better. If you're an American black person, then you're a lazy piece of.
The 7 investigators have obtained the recordings that county officials say prompted Judge Ryan's removal.
Oh, he's just I have no use for him.
She's made it a living hell in the past 6 years. I mean, it's been terrible. It's cost me relationships. I think it's affected my health. Can't sleep.
Attorney Edward Hutton is the Oakland County Probate Court Administrator. He's in charge of running everything that's not under the judge's purview inside one of the state's largest probate courts. Hutton alleges Judge Ryan has been calling him both during work and after hours for years. And Hutton says during those hours and hours of calls, Judge Ryan said highly inappropriate things.
Why did you start recording the calls?
I just felt like it wasn't going to change. Nothing's manipulated in it. It's conversations that I was a part of, and I'm absolutely willing to testify to the authenticity of every single one of them.
I can honestly say that, okay, I'm not systemically racist, I'm a new racist. I never was, but now I am because you're shoving the down my throat and making allegations that you don't know about. You're telling me who I am and you've never met me. You. You.
Hutton says the judge also used homophobic slurs about other elected officials.
You know.
And that's not all.
A lot of times they were conversations about sexual encounters that she's having with various individuals. I mean, in intimate detail.
Hutton says for years he felt like he had to play along, and he says for years he was afraid to speak up.
I didn't want to lose my job, and I didn't want to be in her crosshairs. It's such a David and Goliath situation. I don't have the power. I'm not elected. I could get fired tomorrow.
On May 24th, Hutton says he sent Chief Judge Linda Hallmark a notice of sexual harassment.
For 3 months, nothing happened.
That's why on August 22nd, Hutton says he decided to send the Justice of the State Supreme Court, Oakland County Executive David Coulter, and other public officials. And he also contacted me.
I just want to make it right. I haven't filed a lawsuit. I'm not looking for a payday. I want to keep my job and do it in peace. And I want the people in Oakland County that come to court to get a fair shake, to have their day in court, to have an unbiased trier of fact.
In that email, Hutton said Judge Ryan, quote, has vocalized her hate and contempt for various protected groups. Once the recordings were shared with those state and county officials, Judge Ryan was removed from her docket. In a statement, County Executive Coulter said, quote, there is absolutely no place for harassment of any kind or for racist or homophobic language by anyone at Oakland County, especially by someone the public must be confident will act fairly and impartially. The alleged conduct and abhorrent comments made by Judge Ryan merited her removal from the probate court docket pending further investigation.
Is Judge Ryan fit to be on the bench?
Absolutely not. Nobody with that much hate in their heart for certain people or certain groups of people, I don't believe that they could possibly make fair, unbiased decisions regarding them.
I did reach out to Judge Kathleen Ryan to talk to her about this. Her attorneys sent me this statement that says, quote, we respect the authority of the Michigan Supreme Court. However, we look forward to vindicating Judge Ryan in the appropriate forum. I also spoke to probate judge Daniel O'Brien. He says Judge Ryan's friends are supporting her and believe these statements are totally out of character for her.
Of course they do.
Certainly a lot here, but what's next with the Judicial Tenure Commission?
Well, they cannot confirm or deny whether they are pursuing an investigation. There has been some reporting that suggested that the complaint against the judge involved an inappropriate personal relationship. Hutton says that is not true. He says there was no physical contact. This was strictly a sexual harassment complaint about her alleged comments that started all of this. But again, he says the bigger issue here is what the judge says about people in protected classes, and he's hoping that that is what the JTC will focus on. So everybody's just sort of waiting to see what they will do.
And it sounds like this is in its early days. We know that you're going to stay on top of it. So
we will follow it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, now, somebody said they smell vindication, they smell BS. You're right, El Diva, me too. And the thing that gets me is he had complained about her, you know, with sexual harassment, nothing was done. He makes this complaint and see, now they're getting scared and they remove her from the docket. But has she been removed from her appointed position? That's what I want to see, because like he said, she really does not need to be in a situation where she is judging people. She really shouldn't. Miss Boogie Down entered the chat, obsessed with the mess. A sister from New Jersey. Is complicated. Lovejoy, how are y'all doing this fine wee hours of the morning? So I'm just amazed that, and what, I didn't used to be racist, but now I am. What, I don't understand how that works. I mean, usually it's in the reverse. Did I say hi, sister from New Jersey? How you doing? And Miss Red. Usually it works in reverse. You like racist because that's what you've been taught. That's what you've known all your life. And then you grow up and you become a civilized individual and you learn things. But this is the other way around. This is, you know, oh, I wasn't racist, but I am. And, you know, like El Diva said, I call BS on all of it. Now, here, the next story we have here is a young lady who I did not know about this crime, and I'm so surprised because it was captured on Facebook Live, where she unalived somebody, recorded it, hey, Vic to the Veil, and put it on Facebook. I don't understand. A certain, and I don't mean to talk about generations, but this newer generation doesn't know what privacy means and boundaries. Why would you commit a crime, record yourself committing the crime, and then put it on Facebook? And I tried to find it on Facebook, but couldn't. I'm gonna look again. But it was just because I actually want to see what she posted. Did she put anything on the post or whatever she said? So let's get into that. Okay, let's get into it. These folks doing?
Hey, Kyle and Paula, and the suspect, Akira Fletcher, posted on Facebook on Friday afternoon. She included 2 videos. One of them shows the shots that would end up being fatal. Fletcher tagged Local 12, giving her account of what happened. By the next morning, she was booked into jail.
Hit me again.
4 shots, 1 woman dead, another injured, and the woman recording in jail. And this video will likely be part of the evidence against Akira Fletcher. This was the crime scene on the early morning of July 12th. Police taping off an SUV with a flat tire surrounded by shattered glass in the middle of a parking lot where 2 women were shot on Reading Road in Avondale. Fletcher says these were the moments leading up to the shooting.
You going to jail? I don't give a.
The woman in pink is 29-year-old Naima Norton. Fletcher was recording when she allegedly shot Norton and another woman also seen in the video. Norton died 6 weeks later. The fatal confrontation playing out on Fletcher's phone.
I have a gun in my purse. They trying to make me get out the car. She's busting my window again.
In her Facebook post, Fletcher claims she was being, quote, attacked by Norton. At one point, Norton appears to be holding a knife and then a rock.
I don't give a. They're going to jail. She just threw another rock at me, as you can see. She's slashing my tires.
Eventually, the 2 women begin walking away, but Fletcher gets out of the car and is heard threatening them before they walk back toward her.
You should be happy. You should be happy you don't get clapped. You should be happy you don't get clapped.
That recording stops as Fletcher starts to move her car. The next video begins with Fletcher's window shattered and Norton approaching her car. It ends with gunshots and Norton on the ground.
A complaint filed in Hamilton County Municipal Court shows there was an ongoing beef between Norton and Fletcher. In May, Norton was accused of pointing a gun at Fletcher and threatening to shoot her. Both women were due in court for that case tomorrow.
From breaking news to feel-good stories, Local 12 has it all. Tab subscribe and click the links for more content like this.
Okay. Now, here is what I say to that. Well, first of all, Vic to the Veil made a good comment, and if I can find it, I'm going to read it to you. Where is Vic to the Veil's? I don't know, but it was about the younger generation. Why can't I see it? I should put my glasses on. But listen, I was at first when I listened to it, I said, well, this could be self-defense. But here's the thing. She retreated. You know, they had their argument, they're back and forth, rocks were thrown, and she got in her vehicle. She could have retreated, even if, as she was trying to drive away, another rock went through the window. She could have retreated. She should have retreated, because now we're looking at assault with a deadly weapon and, of course, the unaliving charge. So, I mean, I'm on the fence about it. I'm really on the fence about that, because I just don't see where it had to happen. It could have been handled the other way. She could have went. She had evidence. She was recording. She could have taken her recording to the police station and did a report. And I mean, I'm sure that this is over a man. I am so sure. So, yeah, that's what happened to that. I also learned out something interesting and new about the Appalachian School unaliver. His mother, the morning of the shooting, oh shoot, there I go. The morning of the crime, she called to warn that, you know, he was unstable and she thought something might happen. So now we have the father who 7 months after the last incident that he had with his old school, with putting threatening messages and showing guns on the internet, 7 months after that is dismissed, this man goes out and buy him an AR, whatever he bought. I mean, are you kidding me? And, you know, she also says that he's upset about his, you know, he's having issues because of, you know, his broken home. Okay. Do you know how many children are out there from broken homes? Do you know how many people are out there who had never even met their father? Or there are some children out there who never met their mother. I mean, some children never met either their parents and are being raised by their grandparents. So that's no excuse to go and take other people's lives. I think that he did this more on some go viral type of thing, because usually those school shooters, gosh, I keep saying that word, those school pow people usually don't give up. Their goal is to take out as many as they can and then to take themselves out. But he didn't do that. As soon as those resource officers came at him, he laid down on the ground and gave up. So, hey, Native. So I just don't understand. That broken home stuff is nonsense. Miss Boogie Down said about this last story we just watched, she couldn't drive off because multiple tires were flattened. Oh, yeah, you're right. But I don't agree with unaliving. She should have called the cops because clearly there was bad blood on the sides. And you also, now you're right about that, Miss Boogie Down. I didn't think about it, but she could have, the thing of it is when she when they threw that last rock, they were walking away. She was in her car. Well, now she couldn't sit there with the windows up because they broke them, but she could have sat there and called the police on the scene. So, I agree with you in that part, Miss Boogie Down, but there was still other things, that she could have done. Oh, Native, don't worry about coming late. I didn't expect to see you at all, really. So this next one is another one that's going to tick you off. Victor the Bell said, I also saw a report that he is a part of the rainbow community, and his dad said he was being bullied for it. You know what, Victor the Bell? Okay, I'll buy that. But then I also want to say that these days, who's getting bullied for being in these schools? You have so many different types of children belonging to several different communities. I don't know about that. I just don't know about that. Hey, let's talk about it all is in the chat. How are you doing? Southside Chi-Town, I don't think I saw you come in here. I don't think, but so yeah, Native, they'd like to know, in Harmon would like to know if Smokey is asleep. So that's that story. Now here's another story that is going to tick you off. And so check this out. It is about a girl who is autistic and goes to school, and she ran into some problems. And here's what happened.
I was scared, I was angry, and I was sad.
There's a little fifth grader with special needs speaking out tonight after a police body cam shows the way she was disciplined at school. We need to warn you, overall, the story and some of the video may be disturbing to watch. It's not easy. The little girl's dad, though, contacted the I-Team's Ginger Allen, and Ginger is here now to take the story from there. Ginger?
So, Doug, the family reached out to us because for 2 years, the I-Team and our CBS partners across the country have been investigating case after case after case of young children who do not appear to be posing a threat to anyone, arrested, handcuffed, and restrained.
Okay. What happened? What's going on? Wait a minute, y'all. What happened? Oh, YouTube. That's what happened.
It's out to see could happen to their fifth grader, especially after a new law was just passed in Texas following all of our stories.
Cameras are rolling as police arrive at Cryer Intermediate School, a few hours south of Dallas. McKenna Lombardo is on the playground with administrators.
That's why I called you, because I knew where we were headed.
A police report states they've been called because the 10-year-old was, quote, physically aggressive and throwing markers, and she had pinned her associate principal's arm against a door frame.
Blocked me into the door, which, I'm filing charges just so you know. You don't have to
Officers walk McKenna inside. They stop at the bathroom where the fifth grader refuses to come out. The situation escalates as McKenna starts to walk towards the door and then turns around.
Let's go. Let's go.
I'm not going to go.
You will come with me, or we will go to juvenile.
Okay, we will.
Then let's go. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
No.
Turn around, put your hands behind her back.
No.
Now you're resistant. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
I'm trying to go get my shoes.
You're not going to get your shoes.
Why?
Now you'll listen. You'll put your hands behind your back.
I need to go get my shoes.
I will get your shoes. Put your hands behind your back.
In the minutes leading up to this, you repeatedly hear the administrators tell the officers McKenna's dad, Matt Lombardo, is on the way.
Lombardo says the school knew his daughter had autism. Medical documents provided by him show she is diagnosed with several disorders.
Where's my daddy?
Eventually, you see Lombardo outside, a former police officer himself, begging them to release McKenna from the squad car.
If they'd like her to be released to me, please. Are you charging her right this second? If you're not charging right now, are you charging her?
She is detained, sir.
Okay, you need to release her.
No, sir.
Next, you hear the Conroe ISD officer call the DA's office and discuss filing an assault on a public servant charge.
She assaulted a teacher, slammed her into a wall.
Lombardo eventually sees his daughter driven away in custody. He says he assumes she's assaulted an administrator until 1 week later when he watches all of the video.
My anger turned to rage.
The No Kids in Cuff law, which passed following our investigation, states a peace officer may not restrain a student enrolled in 5th grade or below unless the student poses a serious risk of harm to the student or another person. Lombardo says the body cameras prove McKenna was not posing an immediate threat to herself or anyone at the time she was handcuffed. But this is what's even more upsetting to him.
She assaulted you. She did assault me. No, she pinned me up against the door. Did she block the door and my arm happened to be there?
It's conversations you hear about the incident back in the classroom before officers ever arrived.
That's up to you though with the arm. If you want to do something like that, that's totally your call.
I mean, if it'll help.
Lombardo believes the officers repeatedly coerced the teachers as they discussed whether charges should be filed against McKenna.
Did you think about that?
I feel silly doing that. But
I've seen way less.
Okay.
I've seen way less. Well, she's in handcuffs already, so she's going to trial. So she just gets charged with assault. Assault on a public servant. Oh yeah, it don't matter.
They were doing whatever they could in order to solicit a felony charge against a 10-year-old. It's sick. I mean, a special needs 10-year-old.
3 days after the arrest, a second staff member files another assault report stating during the bathroom incident, McKenna, quote, slammed her hands and body into the dispenser, injuring the woman's hand. She states, I yelled because it hurt.
I didn't hear her yelp. I didn't hear any injuries that
Me
would have
either.
been sustained that would be consistent with what was depicted in the police report, to include all the photographs.
We took the pictures, reports, and video to the advocacy group which brought the No Kids in Cuff bill to Austin last year, and to the senator who wrote it.
The school should have determined whether there was other alternatives other than putting a 5th grader, a 10-year-old in handcuffs. In this situation, she wasn't posing a danger to herself or anyone else at that point in time. And it appears as though, based on looking at the video, the justification was made up after the fact.
Sounds like assault.
I do it. I mean, I will if it'll help.
What really perturbed me was a teacher was being pressured. The pressure that we saw came from the officer. It goes counter to their values, and it was very disappointing to see.
Both the Minaret Foundation and Senator Royce West say the purpose of their law was to prevent the short and long-term impacts this discipline has on a child. McKenna's family allowed us to ask her.
I'm worried because I don't want it to happen to anybody else. Younger than me, older than me. I know I was being like bad and I wasn't listening to the teachers, but I didn't think I was going to get arrested.
When we first began digging into these cases, our CBS data team learned that children with disabilities nationwide are arrested at 4 times the rate of non-disabled children. And then in Texas, children with disabilities and minority children are arrested at higher rates than their white and non-disabled counterparts. For this investigation, our data team dove back into all of those numbers we had been looking at, this time looking specifically at the school and the restraint data there. In Texas, in 2021, we found that about 4% of the students with disabilities at Crier Intermediate were restrained. Statewide, less than 0.5% of all students with disabilities were restrained. And our data team, Doug, called that a stark difference.
Now, I've got a question for you, but candidly, first a thought. And my first thought is, if not but for the video, would we have ever even heard about this thing? And the answer,
no,
maybe not, right? probably. But regarding McKenna, before this was all over, for clarity, she actually faced not one but two assault on a public servant charges after everything we saw.
That's right. So one for what happened before the officers ever arrived, and we don't see that on video. And then the second for the incident you do see on video in the bathroom. I do have an update for you, though, here. This is the latest. On July 31st, during McKenna's intake hearing, the Lombardos say Montgomery County listened carefully to them and then dropped all of those charges. Doug, I also want us to look at the other side of this for a second, because I've covered a lot of these cases, and I've heard from many of you teachers out there who talk about how difficult and dangerous the classroom can be for them and for other students. I've heard from you. So to find out what more we may not have seen on this video, if there was anything we missed at all, I reached out to the Conroe ISD and to the police. I even asked Conroe ISD for its policies about arresting and restraining, which Senator West asked me to get for him. The school did not provide that. They would only send a statement saying it could not respond due to student privacy laws. And I still haven't heard from Conroe ISD police.
Well, you made the calls, you gave the opportunity to reach out and to hear the other side, and that's what we do. Ginger Allen, I-Team, thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm swinging it. Okay, so here's my thing on that. Victor the Veil says, I saw this report. Apparently, she does have some issues, but was being physically disruptive and hitting students and teachers. Hey, coffee is brewing. And Native would like to know, how can anything escalate with a fifth grader? I mean, if they are she has like ADHD, autism, she has like a whole list of emotional problems. So I can see it. But when you work in that field, when you specialize, I know that children these days are, what do you call it? When you try to put those children in regular classes and not special needs classes, mainstreamed, I think. I don't know. I can't remember the term. But they're taught, take down things, how to take children down, how to restrain. So I don't understand how this got so far. Aldita said, this is absolutely crazy. How are kids charged with assault? That is a good question, especially a 10-year-old. I mean, I can see, but I mean, she didn't do anything. Like this teacher that she was in the bathroom with. Now, this is my second time watching this. I did not see her push her into that thing. I did see her back up on her arm, but to me, it just didn't look like anything that would hurt. And I did not hear her yelp either. So I'm with the dad on that. Now, the dad is, and the bad part about it is the school called the police, but the school told them when they were talking about arresting her, the school said, well, her dad is on his way. My thing is, why didn't you just call the dad and say, come and get your child, instead of calling the police? I don't understand that at all. And to answer your question, in Harmon, the dad is white and the mom is black. Bank. Hey, Bank. Yes, I'm live. I actually didn't expect anybody to be on here. Victor Veil also said, I'm on the fence. My mom and auntie are educators, and there are many kids like this who often become physically abusive when they don't get their way. And the kids say, you can't hurt me. It's the law. Yeah, they do say that. And how crazy is it that there's actually been a law passed that says you can't cuff children in the 5th grade and under? I mean, why does that even have to be a law? Sometimes I think it's a common sense thing. Banks says, my niece is facing an issue with her autistic daughter who has ADHD and behavior problems. I get so worried for her. Yes. And I used to worry about my nephew, because he was a sweet child, but he had ADHD to the 10th power. And I wasn't always for, like, just instantly you find out somebody has ADHD and you throw them on medication. I'm not necessarily for that. but he needed something. He really, really was ADHD. He's smart. And the ADHD I think kind of caused him to have behavioral issues, but he didn't do anything wrong. Like the teachers would kick him out of class, and he'd have to go down to the office. Well, instead of him being punished or anything, don't. Back in my day, you used to have to clap erasers, washboards, or something. He would be down in there being the secretary's assistant because he was a lovable child. He just had ADHD real bad. So I mean, I can understand. I'm on the fence too, and I'll tell you what turned me. When I first saw it, I was kind of enraged, but when it got to the end, and she talked about how she knew she was misbehaving, and she knew she'd get in trouble, but she didn't think she'd get arrested. That is some kind of older child logic. So that's what concerned me. I was kind of like, I don't know. She applied some serious logic with that response of how she felt in that moment. Miss Boogie Down says, I feel the problem is these kids are all being mixed in. Some needs more attention in smaller settings that is not being addressed. Yes, and there's not enough teachers to teach the amount of students that they have per class. Shelley C. said the police has released future Pow Pow students to parents a week before the major event. They were not taken to jail. I remember I did a story. There was a 6-year-old, and I forgot which state, who got arrested. He was a problem child, 6 years old, a problem child. And he took a gun to school. And I can't remember off the top of my head if he shot anybody, but he did take the gun to school. I'm sure he did because there were police and stuff everywhere. Now that I'm thinking back on it. So, yeah. Now this last one that we are going to do before we get into some mess, it's very short. It's 2 minutes and 46 seconds. I am going to give you a trigger warning. If you feel like this may not be for you, you might want to just walk away for 2 minutes and then come back. It is dealing with child touching abuse, a child actually touching abuse. So if it's about 2 minutes long, so if you think that it is going to upset you, you might want to come back in about 2 minutes. The 6-year-old, he shot his teacher. Okay, I knew because there was police and stuff everywhere. Can you imagine? How does a 6-year-old know how to use a gun? I used to play with guns when I was little. And I think I might have had a cat.
St. Louis County Police are investigating a woman who was accused of sexually abusing a 13-year-old. Investigators say that woman was considered a church mentor. Tonight, police are asking anyone who believes they may have been victimized by the 25-year-old woman to come forward. Our Megan Kernan has been looking into this case all day, and she joins us in the newsroom. Megan?
Police say Brandy James met the young girl at the House of Deliverance Church in St. John. We talked to professionals who investigate child abuse cases in our area. They say this type of case is always hard to hear because our kids shouldn't have to endure these victimizations by adults. Court documents say the victim's mother discovered her 13-year-old daughter's diary. In it, her daughter wrote she had been involved in sexual acts with a 22-year-old church mentor. So we went to the House of Deliverance Church looking for answers, but it was closed. We contacted the church's pastor, Eric Battle, who says Brandy James has never been an employee or mentor at the church. Amy Robbins with the Child Advocacy Center says 90% of the time, it's not strangers who abuse our kids.
is individuals that the children have a relationship with, are part of their family, that are within that inner circle, that have that trust and access to that child or teenager.
Investigators found proof on the girl's phone that she had been sexually abused at least twice in 2022. Officials say the now 25-year-old told other people about the incidents, but refused to speak to police.
Abuse starts with first looking for a vulnerable child that they can build that relationship with, and then what we would call manipulate or grooming the situation or the environment in order to make sure that they can take advantage of them in those ways.
When it comes to James, Battle said her relationship with the alleged victim took place outside of the church without any involvement with the church.
Is if you do believe that there are potentially other victims in the case, we just really encourage parents to have that conversation early and often with their children so that this topic is normalized and that it isn't something that they feel ashamed of or uncomfortable to go to parents about.
The pastor says he's been assisting police in the investigation. Anyone who believes they may have been victimized by James or has any information about this case should call St. Louis County Police at 314-615-5400. James has been charged with 2 counts of statutory sodomy and 1 count of child molestation. The 25-year-old is currently being held on a $300,000 bond.
Okay. That is that. To Vic to the Veil, I do not know how to play them Nintendo games and stuff like that. And as I was saying, when I was a little girl, I
St. Louis County Police are investigating a woman
I
who was
used to have guns
sexually abusing a 13-year-old.
that I would play
Investigators
with.
say that woman was
Come
considered
on, lady,
a church
get off.
mentor. Tonight, police are asking anyone who believes they may have been victimized by the 25-year-old woman to come forward. Our Megan Kernan has been looking into this case all day. She joined.
Okay. So I had guns that I played with when I was little. I still don't think that I would know how to take the safety off of a real gun. I don't know. And, even when I watch like shows on TV, they talk about how, people forget to take the safety off, especially in like tragic situations or, when you're rushing to get to the gun to defend yourself. So I don't know. I don't know how. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know how that happened. Banks said, at Vic to the Veil, I see the struggle up close and personal. It's not that easy. ABA therapy takes time. The lack of resources force parents to send the kids to school that are not equipped to help. Sometimes, and I'm not saying this are, they tend to look at the school as babysitters, the teachers as babysitters. They're not, they take minimum responsibility. I'm talking about the children who come home and the parents don't check their homework or even make sure that they did their homework. These are the kinds of things that go on in the home. And I do think that it's the teacher's job to teach, but the teacher can't teach and, worry about emotional problems and all of what do they have now in the class? I don't know if it's still 30 to 35 children. I don't know if they've lowered it, but it's just hard to teach and deal with all of the different emotional issues, traumas, and things that all of the children have going on all at the same time. And you have parents that don't seem to do anything. Let me tell you, like my nephew I was just telling you about with the ADHD. He was staying with my mom for a little while. And one thing she would do, and sometimes when I would get off work, I would go over and we would look at his homework. He even had a homework book that you had to fill in, that he did his homework. Well, the teacher is sending home notes saying he's not doing his homework, he's not doing his classwork. And so my sister went up there and I said, you know what, I'm going up there too, because I know what's going on. So I go up there and we're talking to the teacher, and then she was saying, you don't do your homework. You always lose your pencils, which is a classic ADHD sign. I'm talking about my mother would buy him a box of pencils like every week, and by the end of the week he had no pencils because he would just lose them. There are cases of ADHD when people do that. You can't keep up with things and all of that. So, I'm talking to the teacher. I said, he does his homework every day. And she says, well, that's what his grandmother says, but he doesn't turn it in. And I said, I know she's not just saying it, she's telling the truth. I have signed off in that book. He does his homework. And then he had a class assignment that day of the conference that he didn't turn in. And the teacher said, we're going to go. He said, where is it? Where is it? She said, you know what? We're going to go out to your locker. They went out to his locker, opened up the locker, and not only did the paper that he didn't turn in that day fall out, but all of the homework that he had done that whole time fell out his locker. She said all kinds of stuff fell out that locker when they opened it up. So he was doing the work. I guess he just didn't have the wherewithal or the organization to turn it in. Once he got medicated, he did good. He did good. And one thing I liked about his therapy and stuff is that when we would take him, they didn't, I mean, you of course would go in, but you didn't go back into the counseling setting with the child. And the child handled everything, the appointments and everything. So just at that young age, they were already teaching them responsibility and independence. So, but I know it could be very, very hard. Bank says, and no separation, no child left behind, which is of no benefit to all kids. Yes. Now, here's the thing with that. When Nesto, because I looked to see what year the No Child Left Behind Act came into place. And it came into place after his time. So that's not the reason why he's the way he is. But it's a shame that somebody in 2024 can go to school, graduate, and can't read. I don't understand how that happens. And there's so many technologies that if there's not a teacher in school who could help these children, the school could get programs or something to help these children. I remember when I was going to school, we didn't have all the computer things and stuff, but we did have I think they used to call it Title One. Some places called it Chapter One. Some people called it special reading. They had different types of things that they took children who were struggling, broke them off into smaller groups and helped them. I don't see too much of that going on anymore. Shelley C says, question, should special needs be with special needs only? I think it depends on the degree of special needs. I'll say that, the degree of the special needs, because there are some children who can be mainstream. And then there are some children who cannot be or should not be mainstream. So that's kind of like a yes and a no for me on that one. I have had, in I guess, I was almost out of school when they started mainstreaming. And I can tell you that there were some children that were mainstream that were kind of a behavioral problem. So I don't know. That's a tough one. All right, Bank, I'm getting you. Let me get the link, put it in. Yeah, that is really, really a tough question to answer. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that children should be mainstreamed, and is it a benefit to them and a disservice to those who don't have special needs? That's a hard one. That really is. It's complicated. Said you're so right, Ed Bank. It takes a lot of money. I know this all too well. And it's life changing, especially with marriage, family, and friends. I'm getting the link. I'm getting the link. Okay, here we go. Let me see. It's complicated. Said if they're high functioning, they attend a special needs school with other children that have major disabilities. That's a problem too, I think. I think that's a problem too. If you have somebody that is not, they're high functioning, they do have special needs. I think that it is a problem to keep them with other children that have special needs that are more severe. Now, I'm gonna say this. There's this case, and I know some of y'all might disagree with me, but that young man who um, he was just found guilty about a month or so ago and sentenced to 5 years, who beat up a teacher. He was very autistic. He is the type of autistic child that you can look at and tell they're autistic. And I guess he has the fits of oh, Sandra's RN, how you doing? I don't, I think he has behavioral problems and such, but I when you work in that environment, I'm not sure if he was at a special needs school, but he was in special needs classes. When you work in an environment like that, you are taught how to deal with those type of children. So I don't. Uh, I'm not saying he shouldn't have been punished, but 5 years in prison is, I thought, was a bit severe. Hey, Bank.
Hey, hey, how you doing? How are you doing? Because I know you had the C word, so I was wondering how you were holding up.
I'm doing good. And even though I tested positive for it,
Mhm.
I found out some other information that makes
Oh.
me believe that I probably don't have it, even though I tested positive. And my sister, she's not doing too good. She had a good day yesterday, but then today she's bad. So I don't know.
Mhm.
But then I could have that and some other stuff. So who knows?
Well, you guys take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I know the title of your live is News and Nesto Rico Countdown. Now, I want to get to the Nesto part because it just feeds my soul for some strange reason. But I just wanted to say because it's really hard to communicate in the comments sometimes, especially when you're talking about something that's so nuanced. I was speaking
Hmm.
specifically because we're dealing with this as a family, as an extended family. My sister passed away 2 years ago, so me and my middle sister have stepped in for my niece in her, in helping her out with her kids and her daughter, her only daughter. She has 4 kids. She is autistic, and her problems. She has ADD, and that is lending to some behavioral issues. And this little girl, she's 6 years old, but she is strong. I mean, she is when she gets in, when she has a fit, it's a battle to. I mean, it's WWE, and that's why I say I worry because she is doing the ABA therapy. And that's what I meant when I was talking about what's going on now in money. The problem is that she's 6 years old. She has to be in school, but the public school system is not being funded well enough, and teachers are not being trained, and they don't have enough to accommodate for these issues, but the child has to be educated. So they tell her to send her to school. Oh, yeah, we could do this. We'll make a concession or we'll try to do what we can. They've already screwed her up and she can't even go to the neighborhood school. They want to put her on a transportation bus. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that it all comes down to you. No child left behind sounds good. Now, those high functioning ones you're talking about, just behavioral problems, for the most parts, the public school system is equipped for those kind of kids. One of my closest friends, I've known her since childhood. She's an early intervention specialist, and they were just dealing with mainly behavioral issues, and they're really good at that. They're really good at managing that. But now you have kids with autism and other kind of neurodivergent situations coming into the schools, And it's not even that the parents are not trying to teach them at home or trying to, make sure the kids are, behaving. It's just that when they know their kid needs a little bit more, they're still being forced to send them to school. And then you got these educators who are being forced to take them into the classroom. And so nobody's winning. And then there's disturbance in the classroom. So the kids that don't have those issues are now having, time taken away from them. And the kid that does have the issue, they're stressed out and they're not learning. So it's really a delicate balance, and she's struggling with it right now. So I see it up close and personal. And believe me, being law enforcement, I get it. I don't want any teacher to be in harm's way. I don't like the disrespect, but some of those are just kids who are parents are not parenting.
Right.
They have behavioral problems because their parents are behavioral problems.
Right.
That's what I just want to clarify. So I got that out. I was kind of on a roll. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. I have seen children that not so much now, but like maybe in the early 2000s that I don't think were being diagnosed with the right things. Like I had one
Mhm.
child who he was 5 and he screamed all the time. And I was at work now on the third floor where I worked. Our office was all the way at the end of the hallway when you step off the elevator. And then my office inside the office was way in the back. So I hear this kid screaming. And I'm like, what is that? I go out thinking it's somebody in our office screaming. And I'm looking around. There's nobody
Mhm.
screaming. I keep hearing it. And I'm looking, this woman, they're in the hallway all the way at the other end. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so she came in and, I went back to my office and I can deal with behavioral problem children. I just can't deal with parents who can't control them. And so
Right.
I closed my
Right.
door and this kid was just screaming. And I came out of my office. Finally, I asked my worker, I was like, what is going on? And they were explaining to me what the woman wanted. And I'm just looking at this little boy screaming and he's just really like in a rage. And she says, I'm trying to get some medical assistance because they say he can't hear, he doesn't respond, he needs to go to an audiologist and all this stuff. And I was looking at the kid, I was like, has he been evaluated? I said, he's
Right.
autistic. And
Right.
she said, no, they said it's his ears. And I mean his ears, his hearing. And I said, no, it's not his hearing. I said, you could take him. We could get you situated. You can take him to an audiologist, but I'm telling you, you need to take him to a psychologist too. This child is autistic. And
Mhm.
sure enough, he was autistic.
But let's
And
be
I
clear. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
go
cut
ahead.
you off.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's be clear. I have this I have this weird fascination on these YouTube streets with the mommy sector. That's what they call it. And I
Mhm.
watch these videos of these young women with a gaggle of kids and multiple baby daddies. And I know this has existed through time, but they're putting it out on social media. So now we get to look in. I call it national geographic. And you can see that's why I talk about some of the behavior. Some of it, I mean, I almost, for my, and it's just sad to say, it would be such an easy solution for my niece if it was just a bad parenting. And some of these kids are not being nourished. I'm not talking about just, through food, but emotionally, and physically and all the other stuff. They're being neglected. And that's the part of YouTube. I watch it and I just almost in amazement because YouTube let this goes on. It's not that blatant abuse. And of course there's worse, we see these stories. You bring us some of these stories every day. The nightmares that are really out there, but some of these kids are suffering from neglect, and it leads to behavioral problems. So some of this is literally man made, and that is what clogs the system for the kids and the services that the kids who really need the services are suffer, because you just got parents who are just not willing to parent or just don't and I'm not even talking about they have some delays or they don't have any knowledge. You just got they are believe me, it's not that they just don't know. Some of them don't care to know, just to be quite honest. And that
Right.
sounds a little harsh, but I've seen those videos and I've seen, these women let their babies cry, lock them in rooms, let them play with steak knives, walking around with pampers that are almost sagging down to their knees. And,
Yeah.
and they put this out here. And then these kids, we've watched some of them now, they're going to kindergarten and first grade, and they're having problems adjusting, let alone the fact they can't read, write, or they don't even know their colors. So some
Yeah.
of it is, so I think it's a larger problem that I don't think we can solve, with the conversation here, but we can go on the record. I always say this is a record. The people were concerned. We didn't just sit back and just let this stuff happen.
Well, I'm gonna here's a comment by Hey Muffin 218. She says, I know a woman whose child was going to be put in an institution. She put a probiotic in his ice cream, his favorite food. So I'm assuming, because I saw your other comments where the child is growing up and loves to skate and has a girlfriend. So that's good. I'm all for looking for natural remedies, if nothing else, to go along with whatever remedy that the doctor has given you, and then phase the child maybe off and stick with the natural remedies, because there are things out there that work. So I think that's great. It's complicated said high functioning and disabled children are in separate buildings, but on the same campus. IEP testing will determine which school the students attend. And but you know what? I don't think that's everywhere, because I know it's not like that here. Where I live, you're either mainstream or you're not, and that's the sad part, because they are more than most times um, mainstreaming children who should not be mainstream. What's up, Vic to the Veil? How you doing?
Good evening, everyone, or morning, wherever you're at. You were like an insomniac like me. I'm like, dang,
I
I
am.
I fell asleep on y'all. Y'all know I'm on the West Coast. I fell asleep on y'all, and you were up this morning. I was like, geez, Louise. Okay. Um, I'm just and I'm not an educator, so I'm just speaking off like some of the tales that my mom told me, and also just from what I've seen, and you got to think that a lot of the mothers are of my generation, and or younger, and they're children of the 80s, 90s, and that's kind of like when the crack epidemic hit, and like a lot of things start changing in America big time, and things started becoming more mainstream. People started working more, and a lot of these mothers, I shouldn't just say mothers and fathers, um, kind of were like they raised themselves, and their
Right.
parents weren't involved. So now that they have so many other things that they, I guess, they feel like can raise their kids better than they can, they're just like, okay, well, I'm sending them to school. They're good to go. I mean, you have to kind of fully be aware, if you have a child who is special needs, um, and you're gonna continue to take that task on, then you need to like be fully engrossed. You can't coddle them 100%, because then some of them, especially some of the high functioning ones, the emotionally intelligent ones, they can learn to manipulate that. And
You
go ahead, I'm sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
And it doesn't benefit them, and it doesn't benefit the people helping them. And I think it's a disadvantage right now, especially because a lot of teachers are leaving the field, especially after lockdown. um, Parents were going crazy having to be home with their kids.
Oh yes, they were.
Yeah,
Yes, they were.
to think that this is your child that you spent 9 months, you guys, if you're a husband and wife, or partners, y'all spent all this time having this child, raising them up, and you were so happy to have them, and now that you can't send them away for 10 hours a day, you got to spend time with them all day. you're going crazy because you have to teach them. But that's the way things should be. You should be 100% involved in them. So but I just think it's the generational thing. My generation of parents are not the most involved in their kids' upbringing, and I think they're quick to accept behavioral issues as, oh, they're autistic, or they have ADHD, where as opposed to maybe you're just not rearing them right. Maybe you need to have a firmer hand and change your values and change the way that you're doing things with them, so maybe they can get a little structure. And I think that's a big thing with parents of my generation, the 80s and the 90s parents. They don't want to give the kids structure. They'd rather raise their kids as friends, and I know society has taken a lot of controls away from parents. You can't spank them in some states. You can't do a lot of things. Kids know they can call the police on you. I mean, so there's a lot of things that just can interfere with you actually being like an effective, strict parent, because you don't have to be their friend. You're there to provide, protect, and make sure that they become a productive member of society. Now, some things you just won't be able to control, like, but you can control what they're exposed to. You can control what they have access to. When they go to school, sometimes obviously they have friends whose parents aren't doing the same thing, so they may get exposed to some things that you don't want them to be exposed to.
Right.
But you got to check in with them. Like this whole everybody having a cell phone thing. My kid, even if I choose to adopt, if I end up having a kid in my 40s, or if I choose to adopt, which I'm leaning towards, this gonna be a flip phone, baby. It's the jitterbug. You can only call me, your grandma, like it's a 911.
You know what? My niece, she got her cell phone when she was like, I think she was 13 or 14. And this was back, maybe in the early 2000s or something. But my mom was saying, because if that back in my day when I was little, my mom would have said, no, you don't need no cell phone. But my mom said, this day and age, you have to have one. These kids, they have to have one.
They
So things
do.
aren't like they used to be. So they have to have one. But you're right. You get them the little jitterbug.
And because we don't have payphones anymore. I think there's very few. There's probably one place in every major city that has a payphone still. I think there's one casino that still has a payphone. So it used to be like my mama would give me quarters, and this was like in the late '90s. She'd give me some quarters if I was going out somewhere, like call me an emergency, or 35 cents or something. You'd always make sure that you have whatever the amount for the payphone was. That was the thing. You got money to call me, and that was the thing. Now they have to have a cell phone, but you don't have to have access to like the internet without me watching you. You don't have to have access to like all the video game. I mean,
Right.
I played. I was, like I said in the chat earlier, I played Duck Hunt. I knew how to. I don't know if y'all remember Duck Hunt on Nintendo, where they had the little toy Pow Pow. Did y'all ever nobody played it?
I did.
Okay, I had
I played
Nintendo.
that, Vicky.
Okay, so I had Duck Hunt, and so that was my introduction into, like, okay, fake things. I didn't know anything about Pow Pows, and as far as violent video games, yes, I played Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and all that stuff, but it wasn't. They just have the exposure, and things are so close to reality simulated, and we have all this AI now. You really do have to like just keep the watchful eye, and it may be you being a tiger mom or controlling, but that's just what you have to do, because there's so much stimulation out there that the kid can become overstimulated, and sometimes they may, and then people are ready to put your child on medication where it may not be necessary. It just may
Right.
be that they're attention starved. There's a lot of things, and I know somebody else is up here, so I'll shut up.
I'm gonna let Sanders RN go in a minute. I want to tell you my ADHD story. I was not diagnosed till I was an adult, But looking back, and after I, met with a counselor, and we got, I think I took Adderall for some time, and I really, I noticed the difference. But what bothered me is other people noticed the difference. And I asked her, I said, how did I go through school all this time? I said, I've been to college, I've graduated, I said, I got a couple of degrees. How could I have ADHD and made it this far in life? And she said, did you get in trouble in school? I sure did not, because I knew what was expected of me. So I didn't do anything to get in trouble. But when I thought back about it, I remember I was always the teacher's pet, so I always got to do special things like erasing the chalkboards, wiping those down, collecting homework, just different things I always did in the classroom. And my mind did wonder, but it just seems like with all the teachers I had, they always kind of snapped me back. So she told me, she says, if you did not have any behavioral issues, nobody is going to check. So I think first they put me on like Wellbutrin, and then they went to the Adderall. But the thing about it, when I started taking the Adderall, my I was at work, and we had a staff meeting, and one of my coworkers said, I can't believe you sat through this whole meeting. And I said, what are you talking about? What do you mean? She said, well, normally you're walking off, going to the bathroom, you walk off and get water, you'll walk off and go get on your phone. She said, you sat through the whole meeting. And I thought to myself, oh my God. So, and they didn't know nothing about my business. But I was like, so people notice. And then my mom was like, this is the first time you've sat through a church service. All my life, when I went to church, I would always be, even though I was little, I always liked to play with the babies or remove the babies when they cry or help the ushers. I always did something, so I was never sitting down. But I could tell you everything the pastor said, but I wasn't sitting around or sitting in there to hear it. So after I was medicated, I went to church. And I sat through the whole service, and my mom said, you sat through the whole service. She said, I can't believe it. And a couple of my friends said that too. They said, you actually sat through the service. And I said, wow, I guess I did, because I still really didn't believe I had ADHD. What made me go look into it was because when my nephew was diagnosed, I had to do all the paperwork. I did all the paperwork, that they had to review to see if he had it. And I was reading some of the questions that it asked. And I was like, well, yeah, this happens to me. And I'm just going down. I was like, wait a minute. And I'm looking. So I actually took some of them is paperwork, some of it's actual like testing. And like I took a blank sheet of paper and I took the test as I'm filling out his paperwork. And I thought to myself, something ain't right. So that's what made me, make an appointment with a counselor. And they did the same testing on me, but actually a little bit more detailed than they did on him. And that's when they said, yeah, you have ADHD. And now I stopped taking the Adderall years ago. And there's other things that you can take. So I do take something, but it's just to keep me like focus, because my mind will wander. It will wander. I could be sitting up here doing a live in my mind, I might have to start playing a game because my mind will wander. But that helps me to get focused back on the matter at hand.
Yeah, I
So
Real quick,
didn't.
let me jump in. I'm sorry. I just want to jump in real quick because, like, you explained me down to a T. I didn't realize. Let me tell you how I found out. I wasn't diagnosed, but I connected the dots. I'm like, you had ADD or you have ADD. I was a cop, and there was like this big brouhaha in my city because the academy class before mine, they let about, I think it was 5 or 7 officers retest for the final because they failed the final. And I think all of them were black or female or both. I think that's what it was. I think they were all black. Anyway, so when I started working, one of my coworkers, he was sitting at the desk one night and we were talking, and he said, "Yeah, I was one of the ones who didn't pass the test the first time." I said, "Oh, really?" He says, "I have ADD." He says, "I have it really bad." He says, "I've always had it." He said, "I used to sit in classroom and imagine myself outside, riding my bike or playing with my dog or, doing something else." And I'm like, like you, Legacy Moon, I'm like, "Oh, really?" Yes, but you know what? I also in this, and if I ever decide to quote unquote get diagnosed and take medication, it'll be interesting too. I'm glad you asked that question of your doctor. It's like, well, why was I never diagnosed? And again, it was the same thing. I was teacher's pet. I didn't have any behavior problems, but I got bored easy, and I found out that I'm a creative, and I would have been a better Montessori learner. I'm a hands-on visual learner and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird because I'm a reader and all that other stuff. So I consider ADD to be my superpower because how I coped with it, because nobody was diagnosing me, nobody knew anything was wrong. I just would have to hyper focus. So I'm really good at hyper focusing. Now it's tiring. And when I say hyper focused, I have to, I sometimes get really stuck on something really interesting. Right now, YouTube is interesting the heck out of me, learning the ins and outs and all that other stuff. For a brain like mine, even though it's ADD, I can hyper focus, and actually doing these transcriptions of these texts keeps me focused because I have a task and I'm good at setting tasks for myself, and that's how I controlled my ADD. It's like, okay, you're going to get through this and all the other stuff. So I just kind of manage it myself. I'm at the age now where I'm like, this is who you are. Like you said, people look at you now like you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, but you didn't stop progressing in life. You didn't. It
Right.
didn't. So you figured out how to still succeed with your ADD, and I'm through with that whole. Well, what if my life would have been different if A, B, C, D? It is what it is, and I actually enjoy it, so I accept it, and I do know that. Listen, I got probably about 14 tabs, maybe more open, and that's because I closed maybe 10 of them before I came into your live. So that's what my brain is like. It's a bunch of open tabs.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna let Sandra's RN go.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Thank you.
Sanders.
Hey,
Because
Tommy Reed, go ahead.
I'm in a corner, in a corner, in a corner at work. I took a break. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take my break now because can you guys hear me well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I'm like I said, I'm in a corner, in a corner, in a corner at work. And so I'm not for sure my reception. But the reason why I came up tonight or this morning for me is because this is my heart. This is my passion. This is my love talking about special needs, the population. I started teaching many moons ago. I was a teacher for like 13 years. All those years was in special ed. My dad was a special ed teacher. He only worked with students with emotional disabilities in high school. So I kind of understood how to talk to them in a sense. And because I came from a two-parent home, I think I had the patience or understood they don't have a lot that I had in a sense. They didn't have most of my kids from emotional disturbed label. There was something at home that was not the same or not normal according to our standards. They were raised by grandparents. They were in foster homes. There was a divorce. They saw some traumatic event. There was just something that was there. And then I work with autistic kids as well. Most of them were in ABA therapy or needed to have that therapy. And I loved my job. Every single day I felt grateful to go. I learned something a long time ago. My dad taught me to go in the classroom and give each child grace every single day because God gave you grace. So it just became a mantra. And, I loved it. And we're talking about this and we're talking about what the kids needs. And I know as a teacher, it was very difficult for me. And that's why I left, because I began to have all of the difficult students in my classroom because, oh, you can deal with them. You know how to deal with them. You understand them. I'm like, but it's draining. I'm working 24/7. I'm constantly having to think of things that are creative uniquely for each child. It's about their IEP, their 504, what's in the behavior plan, having to pull that out. And it becomes very draining. And like, you love these kids, but it gets to a point where I can't do this on my own. So you will call in your resources and they will ask you, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? I'm like, okay, yes, I've tried all these things. Or you want me to try to do a picture schedule with a child that's in the mainstream classroom and he's looking like nobody else has this. Why am I being outed? I don't feel comfortable in this situation. And I'm like, I understand. I don't feel comfortable using it with you. So it's just a very demanding career. It's so demanding that I said, I looked up one day and I started having anxiety attacks in my classroom. And the reason why was because I had one student that was Down syndrome. You could tell he was Down syndrome by looking at him. There is a look for most Down syndrome kids. I work in a hospital. There's a look. You can see it as a baby. And it's no offense to anyone. There's just a genetic, physical look that you can look upon a child and see, oh, they have this, or they have, Pierre Robin's, whatever it is. And so the child was not diagnosed, and he would try and stick scissors inside of the plugs in the room. So I had to plug everything up. Then I had another child that was autistic. I love this baby. Had him since he was in kindergarten. He's in 5th grade now. So, those hormones start kicking in and he starts becoming violent. Not all autistic children are violent. This one was because he didn't have structure at home. We tried to talk to mom and dad since kindergarten, same teacher, me. About putting some structure, and I also did in-home training. So that meant my autistic children that qualified would get in-home training, and I would go to their homes if I was a candidate that would do well with this parent and with the child. It was just a lot, and sometimes parents are like, I'm tired. I have 4 other kids. This is my youngest and it's an autistic child. I'm working. I just don't have the space. And I understand that. So you try and put things into place that maybe the whole family can kind of, put together. And it's still difficult for them to do that because it takes time.
Let me interrupt you for a second.
No problem.
Do you find, or did you find that the children, it's bad enough that in this day and age, children think that they can go to school, and Tommy Reed, I'm gonna get to your question in a minute, that it's bad enough they think they can go to school. You can't touch me. You can't talk to me. You can't say this to me. You can't say that to me. But did you find that you also ran across parents, don't talk to my child like that. Don't do this. Don't say that. My child doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. Did you run into any of that?
In my 13 years of teaching, I've only ran into it once. And I think it was only because the mom was experiencing a traumatic experience herself. They were recently homeless, and I noticed a change in the child, and the mom was very defensive. Other than that, no. I think it's about, you build that relationship with that child is going to go home and talk about you. And that child is going to adore you, and they're going to give you, the parents, the best impression of you. So when they talk to you, they're talking to you in the sense of the voice of their child. Well, let me take that back. It was twice. My first year teaching and my last year teaching, I did experience that. The first year, once again, traumatic experience. The mom had just, divorced the husband. The son saw his dad, who's a police officer, slap the mom. And so he had a very intensive fear of authority. And he comes to school and he sees me as the authority. Issues, okay? So I would say yes, but when you look at the end, there's always something behind it. And so these kids are coming from traumatic experiences. And I'm telling you, I worked at a upper middle class school. And it was pretty much the same as working a lower income. The only thing you didn't have to worry about was supplies or resources. But the same issues, it didn't matter. You still have them. It might have been far in between, or because Ms. Sanders is known for working with certain students, They all happened to be in my classroom. And I would go to my neighbor's class and it would look like a lily white school. And I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? So some teachers are just tired. And I got tired. And I can honestly say I love special needs children. I love working with special needs adults. I was a Special Olympics coach. I coach, basketball and also bowling, which is very fun with special needs kids. So, I mean, this has been my passion for the longest. And so when you leave, I had to go on anxiety medication because I felt like my life was a teacher and a special needs teacher. And when I left, I'm like, who am I now? What am I going to do next? I already knew I was going to go into nursing, but it was just like the how and the when. It just flowed perfectly for me. But I can say that I'm only saying this to say that teachers who really care about their students and who love special needs kids, because you see the uniqueness in each and every one of them and you want them to be the best, they're leaving fast and furious. Not because they don't love their job, it's just the demands have become too much and they no longer have a life, or they have a life in which they can't do anything because their resources financially are so low. So no, I mean, I love this topic. I'm glad I'm able to come up. I'm sorry I'm at work.
Yes. Yes.
But this is a topic close to my heart. Even the teacher, the principal that was injured a couple of weeks ago, that issue is very close to my heart because I've had to physically restrain students. I understand that. I understand how it can snap in a second. I understand how some people feel like, I can't let this child run out the classroom. I mean, there have been teachers I know who have physically been harmed because they're standing in front of the door and the child is backing up and ramming into them.
Oh,
I'm gonna let you go out the door, okay? I'm gonna watch you and I'm gonna try and prevent you from running into the street.
right.
But that's all I can do. I'm gonna call the cops. I'm gonna do all of those things that I can do. But I'm not gonna let you ram inside of me. That's not gonna happen. You understand right and wrong, and this is wrong. So get yourself together and go sit down somewhere.
Um, I
Yeah.
want to answer Tommy
No,
Reed.
I'm
She
sorry.
wanted to know, Tommy Reed wanted to know what the topic was. And I showed a couple of news stories, one of which where a child with some special needs, 10 years old, was arrested because, she pushed a teacher and it I still say charging this little girl with assault. It was just crazy, but they dropped the charges. And I had a couple of other stories that I showed in the beginning. So, and this happened to be the story that got a lot of chatter, is the part about the school, the little girl in school. So we're on that right now. And it's complicated. It says, thank you again, Sanders RN. You must have a heart to do this. Yes, you do. You have to.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you. Just not just being an educator, but also being a nurse. I
Right.
appreciate you nurses. Unfortunately, I lost two nieces to autoimmune illnesses, and the nurses were the MVP through the whole journey for both of them. So, the doctors, they do what they do, but the nurses to me were the MVPs. And the same with teaching. I had a college professor ask me, "Why don't you think about teaching?" I'm like, "No, I ain't built for teaching. People like you are." See, I before they even, started really, so No Child Left Behind, I think it was decreed like in the 70s, but nationwide it kind of really took on a little later. But I wasn't built for that. I don't, like I said, I fight kids. Nope, not for me. So thank you for everything you do.
No, I completely understand that, and that's why you have to build that relationship first because they know who to play with.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna play with me, not today. Go sit
And
yourself down.
yeah,
and
And
get
that's
it.
what we do. That's what we do with my autistic niece, because she could be a handful. But I look at her like, you understand what I'm saying. I ain't letting you get away with that.
Most definitely. Well, I'm going to let you ladies go because I'm sure they're asking where is Miss Sanders, but my patients are really I don't teach them without being watched. Like they're really good.
But thank you for joining us. Nice
Thank
to hear
you.
from you.
I appreciate your input. You have yourself a good night. Don't work too hard.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's boogie down. What's going on?
Not that much. First and foremost, how is everybody doing? Um, very quickly, just want to say I have a double bachelor's degree. My child psychology and human resources. So my parents, my mom was a LPN. She's deceased now. My dad was a cop. My dad went from the military to being a police officer, and my mom was only able to obtain her associates, so that's why she was an LPN. And then she became an RN later on in life. She was emphatic about us going to college, having that experience, and I let my mother pick my major. And she was like, "You're really good with kids. I've always just been a thinker." I think it plays a lot into me just always being fascinated with astrology and my Libra signs, my scales, but I'm a fair and I try to keep balance. And so I thought, well, I'm going to listen to mom. I'm going to do that. And it's going to work for me, blah, blah, blah. Nope. Wrong choice. But I'm glad that I basically went and had a double bachelor's, because that's what I currently do, which is human resource. I'm in management. My point is, when I first graduated from college, I think that there definitely, what we don't tap on is, I was 22 years old going on 23, telling people how to raise their children. Wrong move. I don't think that I had the experience, knowledge, or anything else that would deem me to tell somebody what to do with their family. So now, 23 years old, originally from New York, I'm in the city. I'm working with single moms. I don't know anything about, bless God, domestic violence. I'm sitting up here dealing with people who are getting beat up by their boyfriends, husbands, and now they're, through the welfare system, needing assistance because they were bold enough to leave their abusers. And now they're trying to navigate, they're trying to raise these kids on their own. And you would see certain situations. I'll never forget, my first 3 years after college was me basically doing the social services, and I was a case manager. And I'll never forget, this little Spanish girl was running and she kept saying, "Papi, papi, papi." And the mother is like telling her to shush. Well, again, I worked with single parents. And so basically, you're telling the system that the father is nowhere to be found, but yet and still, they're still manipulating some of these young ladies. And they're living in the household, and y'all are pretending like he's not around, he's not there, so you can get resources. Um, and so I remember I reported it, felt so bad afterwards, because I don't know if this cost this woman her children or whatever, but I felt like I had to do the right thing. And I reported the fact that she was getting these resources and that the father was around. She did have accountability for where this man was, and they put an investigation on this woman. And she had 3 kids that were all under 10 that were part of the system. Now, this is me at 24 years old. I'm devastated, just like Sanders RN. I'm sitting up here and now I'm really thinking about my life choices, because it devastated me knowing like the reality of doing the right thing, but then actually watching it foster it was too much. So I'm having a conversation with my parents, and I'm talking to my mom, and my mom, being now at this point, had finally been able to go back, finish school, and become a registered nurse. She was just like, your passion and your caring can't interfere with you doing what is right. And she was like, because if you don't report certain things in the fields that we're in, and you see something and you're not saying something about it, it can negligently come back on you and the agency that you work for. And she was like, so never feel bad about what you did. You had to do what was best for you. Well, long story short, by age 26, I came out of the field and I've been doing HR for about close to 25 years now. When I look back and I see just coworkers that have had children, one of the things that I personally also can speak to is the fact that the parents are a lot in denial about their kids. I had a woman that I worked with. We were, to my knowledge, we were good friends until I guess I opened my big mouth, and I didn't understand why her 4-year-old, during the holidays, people, bringing their kids to the office and stuff like that. This 4-year-old little boy was still in a pamper. And I'm talking to her and I'm saying to my coworker, I'm like, T, that's not normal. Like, why is Brandon still in Pampers or whatever? She got very defensive. He was talking, he would repeat verbatim everything you said. So it would be like, hey, Brandon, how you doing? He would say, hi, Brandon, how you doing? And I was just like, hi, Wendy, how you doing? He's like, hi, Wendy, how you doing? And I'm like, this little boy is something off here. And so I'm talking, and she was a married woman herself. And I'm saying, you and your husband, have you had your son diagnosed? Oh, there's nothing wrong with him. And I'm like, you don't realize that he repeats everything that everybody is saying to him. Like, he doesn't answer the question. I'm asking him, how are you doing? He's asking me, how am I doing? But not me. He's answering by his own name. And I was like, there's something off here. Not to mention, boys are usually, quicker than little girls in terms of getting potty trained and stuff like that. I was like, he's still wearing Pampers. He's 4. No daycare would take him, because I don't know how it is for other states, but apparently in the state of New York, for you to have your kid in daycare, even though they could still be in Pampers, they had to be potty trained. So she literally had him staying with her in-laws, who were older people, and they were watching him. And then by the time he was able to go to like kindergarten, he was able to go to school, like regular school. And we were talking about this with these kids. Like, he to me did not function like my 5-year-old. Like, they were same age, but they're not on the same level by any means of fashion, not their speech. And she was having a lot of issues with him. And we worked together for many years. And I always used to just ask, how's Brandon doing? What's going on, T? How's Brandon doing? Finally, she got an occupational therapist, and they went through like different programs with him. They put him in like a special needs class with his age group, and he flourished. This young man right now is just, he's amazing. And, it's not for me to try to brag or try to take credit, but my thing was, part of his problem was his parents. They were ashamed and in denial when they should have been removing their own personal feelings out of the way and getting him help sooner. And it could have gotten a whole lot worse. And just like I said, me being the natured person that I was and having the career that I had, I was just like, I'm not going to let up on this. As long as she and I are working together, I'm going to keep digging in, and I'm going to keep saying something, because again, this is not normal for a kid. And I was just like, and right now you have to take your pride out of this, and your husband has to take his pride out of this. There's nothing wrong with your being upset and feeling some way along the line that you failed your kid, but it's also about being responsible enough to know he needs assistance that you and your husband couldn't provide. And I stuck with it for 3.5 years until she got this young man some help. And now, like I said, I mean, just doing his thing, like he's on the basketball team, getting ready to come out of high school. Just, you would never even know there's certain things where you can still see if you're in that field, like Sanders RN was saying, that you can catch. But for the most part, he's just like doing amazing. And that was because the parents finally removed themselves and their personal what they felt about failing him out of the way and allowed him the resources to help get himself in a situation where he could flourish and now really be among his peers. Now, I don't know because I've relocated since about 7 years ago. And I don't know to what degree of terms of his education. I know he's still on track to come out of high school next year. I don't know if he's still in like a special needs, but I know that he's just very much active, very much can have a conversation with you. And if he still is considered to be on the spectrum, I'm sure he's very high on the spectrum. He's very functioning on the spectrum. And he's talking about, playing sports in college and stuff like that. Like he's just excited. And you can tell as opposed to when he was like a little kid, he was very withdrawn. And you would ask him about his day and he wouldn't really have much to say. You'd ask him about his teachers. He didn't have much to say. Now you can't shut him up. You know what I mean? It's amazing. But I think a lot of this is stemming not only with the kids themselves having issues, but with the parent or parents, if they're both involved, not just accepting the fact that, something is different about my child as opposed to the rest of the kids.
I'm just gonna
Right.
say this real quick, and then I want to step down because it kind of changed your whole agenda. But I want to thank you for allowing me to at least come up and talk about it. And I just want to say that for everybody who does, work with kids with special needs or behavior problems, hats off to you. I know I make that joke about I fight kids, but to me, that I come from, I was raised by a boomer. I mean, my mother, she's a baby boomer, and I had a neighbor who had a son who they just called him the R word back then, but
Right.
she expected this son to do everything that her other kids did. She understood what he was capable of, and he was so independent. However, fast forward, it was the times. I mean, he was born in the 50s. He's
Right.
65 and he's the last son of the family. He's doing actually very well independently. But the point is that once he turned, she made decisions, or she didn't know she had the power to make decisions for him. He hit a certain stage once he got over like 18, where he wanted to be a man, and it caused a lot of problems. He even was able to move out of the house. I mean, the laws had not caught up to his situation, and when we knew that when he acted out or there was something off with him, that it was just him being him. Nobody called the police. Everything was cool. But once he got in the real world, they started treating him like, a violent, subject, which is a whole different ballgame. And it reminds me of the schools too. So I just want to say that we have, as a country, we've and as a people we've evolved, but there's still a lot of work to do. And I think that there are special needs kids, and I guess I'm a little biased because I deal with it in my family, and luckily for my niece. Her extended family has put in the work to help her, to give her respite. We take the kids, not just, her autistic daughter, which we will take her, but me, my sister, my mother, even my mother, who's almost 80 years old, we give her a break so that she can pour into her other kids that have to have that attention too. And it's kind of strange because even though, she has a son, and all of her sons, I can see it clearly in them. But her oldest son is 10 and he is super intelligent. I mean, he's just like off the scale. He's gifted in program, and so she's dealing with that, and she has to do all that balance, and it can be stressful. And if they don't have the resources, like you said, Miss Boogie Down,
Yeah.
they're just stressed, and look, and that's why I understand we are respite. We have to give her a break. We have to give her space. You have to give her and her husband space, actually. So they
Yeah.
have date night. We make sure that they get time to themselves. I'm going to keep the kids tomorrow so they can just go to the bar and watch a football game, you
Yeah,
know? And it helps, and
absolutely.
in turn it's going to help them as a family. I want them to succeed as a family, and I know that her daughter's potential is well above anything that anybody will say. It's just that there's some things that got to be put in place. So I'm going to go ahead and step down, Legacy. Thank you, as
Thank you.
usual. And let's see if
Thank
we
you
can
for
get,
coming up.
this so advanced. I don't know how much longer we're going to be here. I love a good Nesto Kiki. And so, yeah, let me step on down and get back into the chat and do my mod duties.
Thank you so much. You know what I wonder? I find it interesting. Like, I know somebody who has two sons, and both of them are autistic. One of them is nonverbal, and the other one, he's a little bit calmer, and he's a little bit more social, but his language skills aren't that good. Of course, he goes to speech and occupational therapy, but I thought to myself, how does that happen? You have two autistic children. And there's some women, I had seen a story one time here on YouTube where a lady, she had 5 autistic children. And I'm like, gosh, how do every child you have, how does that happen? Is it the food? What is going on? And even with the what is that? One lady who had 12 children, and 6 of them, all the boys. She had 2 girls. Her last 2 children were girls, and the other 10 were boys. And out of those 10, 6 of them are schizophrenic. How on earth does that happen?
And I think unfortunately for us in our community, there's a lot of undiagnosed like mental deficiencies and variants. And I think a lot of it does go back to, even though none of us directly here today are slaves, we are descendants of slaves, right? So there's a lot of emotional and mental issues that have never been addressed in our communities. So that when we see certain things or we hear certain things, we don't pick up on, you know, what's actually like going on, like in terms of like you just stated with the history. I don't know. I've had a cousin that recently passed who beat the odds. He was about, my cousin Corey, rest his soul, was about 54 last year when he passed from Down syndrome. And he was used to speak. We grew up together. He's a few years older than me, but we grew up together. He's the same age, a few months behind one of my older brothers. And I watched progressively, like being a kid and remembering him and having conversations with him. And yeah, they were definitely different. To him becoming nonverbal, like in his 20s. I don't know what happened and what, wasn't done, but it was just very strange, like how even as a family, like just how we moved differently or whatever have you. But I think that was like part of the reason why I wanted to go into like helping families and helping children, because my aunt, if she would be alive today, would be in her mid 80s. And it was just like, I think we just learned to like cope with certain things. I very much have a coworker, which I found to be strange as well. He's one of 11 children. This woman he has 4 brothers, so it's 5 boys and 6 girls, and every last one of the guys are homosexual. I've never, and it's just like, it's so, to me, I think a lot of things are genetic that we're just not paying attention, because I can see having 2 sisters. I have an older sister. My older sister is much older. She's about almost 11 years older than me. But I have a younger sister that's 4 years younger. So I can see like my younger sister and I, who basically really more so were raised together. I can see us, and I can see my little sister at certain points wanting to be like her big sister. I definitely wanted to be like my oldest sister, but she was out of the house when I became a teenager. She was already married and having her first child, because there's such a big age difference. But I still admired my big sister. And I can see like, okay, if I seen my sister live in a certain way, I may have wanted to do that, trying to follow her. But then I became my own person. And so I made my own decisions. Same thing with my younger sister. She, of course, wanted to be like her big sister, but then she became her own person. I don't understand how all 5 of these men are homosexual. So I don't think that this was like, because I know my coworker, he was just like, he's like in the middle of the 5 boys. And he was just like, yeah, well, I always hung out with my big brother and he liked men and I was always around men and that's what I wanted. And I'm like, I think it goes deeper than that, but it's not my cross to bear. If that's how you accept it, you being homosexual, then that's fine. That's your business. But I think, when I analyze it, like I said, I'm a thinker. And so when I analyze it, I'm like, nah, it's a bigger issue. And like you just said, like if it's all of this woman had all these children and half of them are schizophrenic and stuff like that, then there's some genetic things that we're just disregarding as a community, whether it be we feel shame, whether it be we just don't want to face it or whatever have you. I just think that as a community, we've had a lot of trauma bonding and we don't address it. You'll see us become, generational curses of where we may have witnessed like our mothers being, beaten by our fathers, and we grow up and we say, oh no, I'm not going to be that person, and we turn out to be the same person that our mother was, knowing that what was happening to her was wrong, and knowing that I wanted more for myself and I don't want to turn out like this in this sense, but yet we'll turn around and we'll marry an abuser or we'll be in a long-term relationship with an abuser. So I definitely think there's a lot of trauma bonding, but a lot of mental things that we just don't address enough as a community. We frown on, therapy, and I don't understand why. You know
Well,
what I mean?
mental health help is like kind of taboo in our community. I mean, it just really is, and I don't know why. I don't know how that started, but if you look years ago, I mean, we have progressed so much when it
We have.
comes to mental health as just an overall people, because
Mhm.
early back in the day, even with Caucasian people, their children who had something wrong with them, whether it is mental capacity or some type of what we know, things we know like autism, things we know now that we didn't know then, they would lock them away in an institution, in a room, in the house, all sorts of things that people used to do. So they kind of progressed, and then our community still just looks at it as a taboo. And the biggest downfall is, and I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody, but this is my opinion, is the Black church. Because for so long, the Black church, you don't need a psychiatrist, you need Jesus. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I feel like
absolutely.
Jesus is the one who helped these people get through school
Become psychologists,
to
right?
help people. So I don't understand the logic in that. So that is a problem that I see that goes against the Black community. Now, as far as homosexuality, I just don't know what to say about that. But I do know, I don't know if any of you know, and then we're going to get on. I think I'm going to do a visit right quick with
Right.
Nesto. But they had determined, or they had said they found a gene that like a gay gene. That's what they called it. They called it a gay gene, and they were able to run these tests and determine that these specific men who were gay had this certain gene. So
Okay.
if that is true, you just don't hear a lot about that and a lot of the research on that. But if that's true, because I even think there was this wild, outlandish movie. I can't think of the name of it, where there was a child in the family that was gay, and they didn't want another child to be gay, so they had this test run while the child was in vitro, and they found out that the child had the gay gene, and then they you know got rid of it. So that was just a movie, but the gay gene is supposedly a real thing. And I don't know. I just haven't seen a lot of research on it. Sometimes these researchers get in their labs and they just come up with stuff. I'm convinced.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
But definitely, and I just lastly want to say before you go into the Nesto stuff as well, you mentioned something about the Black church, and that's something that I really support and believe that you are 100% with. And when I was looking at the story that you aired as well with the young lady with the church, that's another problem. We send these kids to schools, right? Thinking that it's the teacher's job to raise them, do their homework with them and stuff like that, and not spend that quality time with our kids when they come home. And it's the same thing. We see the kids are acting up. Oh, no, I'm gonna have them go pray over this child and that. And even in that, being a Christian and being brought up Christian, both my parents were born Catholic. My mother's philosophy was you have to go to church. If you don't like Catholicism, then you have to pick a church, but you have to go to church. And three of us are Baptist. One of my brothers is Muslim, and the other one just doesn't practice. And but I say that to say, we put so much emphasis and trust in the church and pastors and leaders, just like people are putting so much trust and responsibility on these teachers. And we as a community, we as parents, we as family, we're negating our obligations to one another because we're putting it off on some other type of institution, whether it be education or whether it be the church. It's not the pastor's job to cure your child of whatever demons or whatever that they're going through. It's as a family, you're supposed to be working together. And when we just do this whole drop off thing and think that it's somebody else's responsibility, whether it be 2 hours in church or whether it be 8 hours in school, and then we don't foster and discipline ourselves to be like, well, what did you learn today and what's going on today? When we don't do our part as a guardian, as a parent and stuff like that, then I think, we continuously keep falling through the cracks. And that's all I wanted to just say on that. But I was looking at that one too, and I'm glad you had said the church thing, because I was just like, yeah, that was another point that I wanted to make. Like with that young lady, it should have never gotten to the point where this young lady was able to abuse anyone because of the fact that the church, and you're leaving your child with people in the church and thinking it's a safe space. Yeah, the church also, we are Christians, so right, we sin every day. So just know that everybody who praises the Lord, as we see with Nesto, doesn't really live by those standards. You know what I mean? And we just need to make sure that everything is good on that. But I thank you for the conversation. I thank you for the change of topics and looking at these, because we definitely can become desensitized as a community and forget that there's a whole lot of things going on that we just need to pay attention to. So it's been my pleasure. You have a good rest of the morning.
Right.
I'm going to stay up as long as I can. Thank you for the
But
platform and have a
we're not
good
going
one.
to be too much longer. I appreciate you coming up. I appreciate your input.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Might have gone to sleep on us again.
I know that's right. She's like me. She's a Libra also. Our scales be a little unbalanced. We target to do one thing, but whatever the system and our body tells us to do, we're going to go with it. But have a good one. And thank you again, Legacy. Take care.
All right. Take care. Okay. We are going to do this visit. I had to do it because, we did the other visit where we saw Cousin Skeeter's coat. So we're going to do this visit and kiki with that. And then we're going to get off of here. I do want to say before we start that I am going to, next week, there's two things that I want to do, like a special. One thing will be a members thing where we're going to either look at a movie or a documentary. And then the other thing, I'm going to keep to myself until I get more details, but look for some interesting things going on next week. I wanted that call. I'm into doing the calls. I'm into going back, now that we know more information, I'm into going back and listening to what had been said before. I heard that call today and I said, oh, no. I said, I got to do this call. But not only did I say I have to do this call, I got to save it. I got to save it for when Native and I can get together, because I know he got something to say about this call that dropped today. But we are going to look at the video where, Sonia was talking about, Storm Monroe and all the things that went on, that he talked about the case. Also, with somebody left me a comment that I found very interesting that I did not know. I knew that she had been trying to report and flag people's channels back when these calls first came out, but I did not know that Storm Monroe was one of those people. Now, I know he covered, that hearing and all of that stuff, but I mean, I don't see where he does a lot of content on that. So why she thought she could just flag him on Nesto's story is beyond me. But we're going to get into Sonia wearing Cousin Skeeter's coat, literally. I guess we're going to get into it. Yep, here we go. I'm going to have to, maybe I should reboot my computer or something. I don't know what's going on. This YouTube has been acting up lately for me. And it's still, come on, stop spinning. YouTube said, my computer said, go to bed. Do y'all notice? Is it just me? Does she still clean off the phone like she used to?
How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you? Hey,
I'm good. You know what?
You're gonna start the thing so early.
Oh no, it ain't early. It's a little late. About two minutes. That's all.
My clock is wrong in my car. That's right. It is.
Yeah.
Black people, how are you?
I see you got your platinum joint on. That's good. You look.
Yeah.
Okay, you look nice.
Like this little ponytail.
Oh, she got a bun.
Okay. So what you got going on? You enjoy yourself last night? 'Cause it was raining real hard.
I didn't go anywhere. I just went to that Christmas party, and there was a bunch of old people.
What?
I was only there for 30 minutes, and the food it felt like it was catered by Publix.
Oh,
I didn't went for the food. I was thinking I'm about to get some food that stick to you.
First of all, she is an old people. Second of all, I heard that we don't have a Publix where I live, but I hear that a lot of their stuff is good. So what is she talking about?
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, this tastes like Publix made it. This tastes like Publix made it. I was like, yeah, I'm out. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know nobody there. It was just a bunch of old people.
I see you got them nails done. Okay. Oh, they're pretty too. Okay. Yeah, I like them. Them look nice right there.
I took that blue off. So yeah, I took the blue off like 2 days later and did this.
Okay.
Go with everything. That blue wasn't gonna go with this. I wear a lot of black in the winter,
Yeah, I like that. That's a nice interview jump off there. I like that all black. What you got down? Jump jacket on. Okay. So what else you got going on? Your what?
In my bag. My boots in my bag. Are silver.
Okay. So how you feeling over there? I like your hair pulled back with your bun.
It's a loose ponytail.
Okay. But that's your real hair, that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell. Okay, so what's going on in your life? Let me hear it.
Just you. So I was thinking on the way over here because I got to do a I got my phone yesterday for the thing.
Congratulations! Well, congratulations.
And then I ordered the stand with the light that holds the phone, and I ordered the microphones. I had bought microphones from Best Buy, but they were like $300. Then I saw them on.
Y'all, this is for her YouTube career. She got phones, microphones, stands. She got everything. She's got the whole YouTube starter kit.
Amazon for $30.
A phone?
I was like, no,
light.
the microphone. You gotta have microphone. Okay. Right? When I'm out. Okay. Because one time it was like they couldn't hear me because of the back noise or whatever. But yeah, because I need to, speak on have a little session. I was emailing did a little format for the email so that I could email the your attorney. I was just doing some stuff, breaking some things down. And when you got arrested, you did have 2 warrants. You had the car.
She has to break things down for his attorney. This person who has not gone to law school nor finished court reporter school has to break things down for his attorney who did go to law school.
Situation, and you had Calvin, because Calvin went to the police in 21, a year prior.
Right.
You had that on you, right? But that's still no grounds for a search warrant for what they did. That's not grounds. Having a warrant for something in Alpharetta with a credit repair is doesn't cause for a search warrant. On your stuff. It has to be in the trying to do a search warrant, and it would have to be the law enforcement involved, which it wasn't.
But with him, he used to work for me. See, he got on the thing.
And he tried to act like he was a stranger because he said you introduced yourself as Ernesto, and I'm like, and then your son's like, he know him. He used to work in the barbershop. I said, so why? And the thing, he's trying to come off as a stranger.
Man, I'm saying, when I tell you this shit, so I don't understand what's going on in my life. What is going on? But we're gonna touch on Pinocchio for 5 seconds. Well, with him, I'm gonna wait until you get that paper from Dion so you can read it for yourself, the contract and what I asked him to do. You see what I'm saying? Because I don't.
Today and meet him.
Yeah.
Is he talking about a legal contract? I mean, what could he have possibly told the lawyer to do? All a lawyer does is lawyer. I mean, what more needs to be asked, or what do you need to write down?
Because I don't want to. I gotta have my facts together so you can see what's going on before I do what I'm gonna do. Because first of all, I got jacked up a lawyer with that, and then this big shit. And on top of that is, so with him, I already sent him a letter. So he gonna get that letter out of his office on Peachtree. So he'll get that this week. The one I sent him a long letter, same way. I broke everything down, and also he get himself prepared to pay that money back. Cause he told me he don't do refunds in the letter he sent me.
He gonna pay that, and he gonna pay everything back.
Okay, so I'm trying to get that. But before I sign that paper, I need you to read what I sent to what I gave him to read. That girl.
Paper that he wants you to sign to relieve him of his lawful duties.
No, the paper. No, the paper that I sent to Dion is what I wrote him and told him what I wanted.
Y'all see how he was looking back? That's scared. Didn't he look scared? He thought the folks was coming for him. And I don't understand why these two thought that they could get Shirley Straw. Come here, Smokey. I don't understand why they thought that they could get Shirley Strawberry's money. I mean, the nerve.
Wanted him to do that I had the girl to read to him. You understand? The paper that I sent in, yes, say to his worker, his assistant. So assistant, I wrote 2 letters, one to him and one to Dion. So Dion have a backup letter. You understand? When I told him I need for him to file me a fast speech trial, give me another bond, he did none of that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I even told him when he did.
And he sat there and said he would do it too. He didn't try to tell you he couldn't do it. He said he would and never did it. That's the problem.
No, he never did it.
Absolutely talking fast and saying nothing. You cannot get a fast and speedy trial if you haven't been officially charged. He had pending charges at that time.
All right, so you're talking about, oh man, they ain't gonna do my lower it anyway. A little bit, it don't matter. If I lower it down to nothing, I've been sitting in here. I can still have the time to keep getting up on here. That is my right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna say, I don't want to make no more moves with the lawyers, because when I went to the doctor the other day, I ran into this other guy. Matter of fact, he was next door to me. He told me, been this motherfucker 3 years with
What's this case?
four child and child. He been sitting this motherfucker 4 years without no trial, no plea, no nothing.
No evidence too? But they got evidence
No,
and stuff?
the only evidence that they got is on say something about a towel or something. Something he said. A towel.
First, he said that it was 3 years. Now it has gone up to 4 years in the second sentence. Just me, the trial is in October.
Right, wipe your ass with.
DNA?
Yeah, DNA.
Yeah, but was it? It depends. It depends. He said he innocent.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that's how they sit your ass in. They could sit me in here for 5 years and don't have to do anything with the case. They can sit me. That's why I'm pressing
I'm about
on.
to be out on the YouTube talking about the case.
Well, I'm not telling
I reached
nobody.
out to the guy. I reached out to the guy who initially broke the case this morning around 5 o'clock in the morning. I sent him a message on his page for him to email me, because he's local. He's in Atlanta, and he's the one that broke it. And I want to go on his show because he's not messy and he's got a huge following. And I want to just.
Wait, is she talking about Storm? What would make her
discuss your case? That's it. Just what the warrants is looking like. You know, how they keep lying about the witness. Anybody know the witness, can do a character, you know, or have an issue with the person who's claiming all of these lies. Because that's not messing with her. You get me? Because you can't mess with her. But you can pull people that know her, just like they did that ad talking about anybody else has been, you know, doing this too, about talking about you. You can ask a character.
Have orders to stay away and not to contact the victim. That is directly and indirectly. So you can't go around contacting the victim's friends and relatives, asking them to speak on their character. You just can't do that. That's a violation.
Witness. You can ask the people that know her to come forward, you know, because of the lies that's being told. That you can ask for. And that's what we need. Because even if they try to put pressure on her to say, oh, you got to go through with this, or we're going to charge you, even though I think maybe the detective had a lot to do with it. But they'll try to figure out, because of her family so illegal currently, they might try, you know, some bullshit just to try to sink you, because they don't want to be embarrassed that the case ain't going like it needs to. They got 2 weeks. The month is over. Well, 1 week, and it's vacation.
Yeah, that's true. And then so on the other thing, present thing note is I want to go ahead and file my suits now.
Oh, I know. Right. For all of those bloggers and against YouTube, because I've been reporting all of the sites, and they haven't taken them down. So YouTube, you responsible for that as well.
Yeah, they're not going to do all that. So I'm ready now. I just need to see the procedure, how old boy did his, and I'm ready. And once I get that.
So, you know, that's why they're suing all the YouTubers. But I hope she knows that she can report as many channels as she wants. If nobody is violating the rules, then reporting does nothing. Absolutely nothing.
File and everything, and that right there gonna change the game. And as for
it's gonna bring light to it, more light.
And then
you just need a lot of attention to it, so that, you know, this shit can just be like handled correctly. and people to speak out. I got to do a contact information for people to speak out that might know her and be like, oh, I know that bitch. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you how she is and how she did me, because you need all of them type of witnesses in court. Because right now it's just your word against her word. So you need people to come in court that can say what type of person she is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I gotta go get Monday the police report tomorrow in Buckhead. I never went and got. I gotta go get that.
And it might not even be there. It might be. It might not be there. It might because they transfer that stuff to what they call that shit down Lee Holloway. Down Lee Holloway. It's a police department over there. Yeah, the main branch. So they kind of, you want to get a report, you might have to go there.
Her birthday's October 1st. You said it was around her birthday.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was on her birthday. Yes.
It was on her birthday, 21.
Yeah.
Because you got the car fixed immediately, right? Because your car was November 21.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to read.
So, how's she know the victim's birthday? Hey, April B.
They're trying to say on the one where I don't know if you read it or not, with the girl who wrote the check or the person who wrote the check to release the vehicle to the dealership. They're trying to act like you put down on her and forced her to write the check. They're trying to finesse it to make it sound like, you know, even though the check was bad, she wrote the check, but they're still trying to finesse it to say you told her to do so. You get me? Which is dumb.
Right.
Which is dumb. Because if she told me the money's in the bank and I said, do me this favor, yada, 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 I don't know what's in her account. I can't force nobody to write a check. That's bad. And also all she had to say was,
I wonder what she means by her writing the check. I wonder what she means by that. Did she, you know how you write out a check if you are someone's assistant? You write out a check and then all they have to do is sign it. Is that what she's talking about? I'm not understanding what she means by that.
I don't have it. Then we would have went back home and figured out something. You get me? Say you forced her to write a bad check.
But see, here's time. I didn't,
or him, or whoever it was. I can't force nobody to write a bad check.
But I didn't even have no warrant then. I didn't even have a warrant.
Hello, I says this space jacket is sending me. And Miss Boogie Down says Ed Sanders are in that part. Remember the cartoon, Two Stupid Dogs? This is a human version.
Warrant for that at all. That shit was just.
And what does he mean he didn't have a warrant for that? Well, now you do.
No, that came afterwards. Yeah, they did that. That definitely came afterwards. Yeah. That and the stuff with came afterwards with Erica.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
And I told
so yeah, but I. You tell me.
By the way, that last news story that I showed about the woman and the child messing with the child at church. Did you hear on the news say we're showing her picture because we suspect there may be other victims? So you see, they do say that in a lot of news reports. Why she doesn't know that? Well, yeah, I know why she doesn't know that, because she doesn't watch the news.
What?
How they never did had that one in on your wife, right? Talking about her. Because you know how Erica, did you ever get a picture of the booking picture of what she was looking like?
I saw it on TV.
Oh, so you saw what she looked like, right? She looked like a character from a movie. And so they said nothing about her, even though they tried to say y'all live next door to.
Excuse me, Sonia. We have given you several names that have to do with characters from TV. So what's your point?
And y'all were boyfriend and girlfriend and da-da-da-da-da. They still said nothing about her. They just went in on Shirley because she's not attractive in that picture. She looks hideous in that picture. That's just why I told them. I was like, when they was going in on me because they kept hearing you describe me on the phone.
Sonia, every time I see you, you look hideous. You have on cheap clothing, and I don't understand your hair. So while you are talking about Miss Erica looking hideous, she looked better when I saw her at court. She looked better than what you're looking right now.
You know how you would always say, "Oh, you're so beautiful, you're so this, you're so that." They would hear that, and them bitches was like, "Ooh, that's why they fucking with Steve." Because they mad at Marjorie. They never messed with Steve before he married Marjorie. And if Marjorie was fucked up looking, they wouldn't be saying anything about her. Him. They wouldn't be nothing. True. They just, because it's all female doing it. It's 90% female doing this. This is all bitches doing it. And
they
female,
still going in on them.
Man, they still.
Hey, Peppermint Patty. Sonia, no, because I happen to know that the Native Tribe did a video to Steve, as well as he spoke a little bit about him today. And if you missed last night's live, you might want to get into it because we were acting a fool. He spoke about him then. So you see, Sonia, there is nobody out here that's jealous of Steve Harvey, and there are men who talk about him just like women. As a matter of fact, a lot of people in our community talk about him. So
Posting. This bitch posted something yesterday.
What?
Yes, they posting every day. I didn't even look at it. I gotta look at it. And then my brother's gonna fly in town because I want him to be on with me because he gives a great perspective and he could go in and call them all kind of names and shit and it won't look so bad like me calling them names. But he can go in on them and talk about how these weak ass women and da 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 da. I was like, yeah, you need to come on with me because I want somebody to go in on them and not let it be me. Because when you went in on Wendy, they was like, oh my gosh, Shirley, you dodged a bullet. He's so violent. This and I was like, and I had to check this one. I was like, how the fuck you see violence when you sitting in jail over a year on some lies and then his whole life is fucking destroyed.
Here we go, talking and hearing her talk about one of her lives where she had to check somebody. Meanwhile, I've seen all her lives and I've not one time heard her check anybody. And believe me, the insults were a flying.
Took all his money. They, now his wife has left him. And then now this woman want to ask a dumb question about his wife. He didn't threaten her. He had all rights to snap at her. What are you talking about? You sound dumb. Like, what? He sound dumb. I was like, he didn't threaten her. He just said he ain't a gangster. He ain't no fool. Oh my God.
She's the type of woman who would blame domestic violence on the woman, it being the woman's fault because she said or did something that she shouldn't have. Nola Brown, you're right, focusing on the wrong things. And yes, Irie Vibes, her brother is a sovereign citizen. Do you remember that call when the brother told Nesto he was a prisoner? They kidnapped him.
He's a gangster, and it means something different. Go back to the
I never said that. She said that.
No,
she said that you was a gangster.
No.
She said
right.
No, she said her family, her dad and brother, and that's how she was raised. And I might know him. I said it might be. That's what I said. I didn't say I was a gangster. I won't sit it on.
This is how you know this man lies so effortlessly he doesn't even remember. Tasha K talked about how her father and uncles were gangsters, and he proceeded to continue to talk and let us all know he was a mofo gangster. That came out of his mouth, and it wasn't no AI. It was him. Because guess what? And you can ask Bank. She's here in the chat. AI don't communicate the way he talks. So AI didn't say it. He said it. We heard him.
No motherfucking public phone where I'm supposed to say that and use that shit against me. No, ma'am.
Yes,
I gotta already listen to it again to make sure.
Yes, sir.
Right. Because you know how they screw shit around. And how you thinking one thing when it wasn't said.
Well, I guess.
Please tell me something. We saw that and we remember it. How come she doesn't? She was sitting right there. We had to watch it on YouTube. She was actually sitting there when it was said, and she can't remember that happened.
What?
Even still,
I was.
you know what I mean. It's old terminology. I'm street smart, is what I'm trying to say. I'm about that life. I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
I'm not dumb.
No, Sonia, if someone tells me that they are a gangster, I don't look at that as street smarts. I look at that as them being a gangster, because usually someone who's street smarts, they say, I'm street smart. Or how many times have we talked about somebody and we say they don't have any common sense, but they're street smart? Or we say they're not book smart, but they're street smart. I have never heard anybody call themselves a gangster, and by that they mean street smart.
Basically, yeah, basically. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, that process to get going. Because when that process get to going, guess what? The once that start coming, everything else start moving out the way.
Right, right. That's why I was like, oh, he just trying. She got her money and he ain't using her. He ain't never got anything from her in the first place. Why y'all keep insinuating that that's what it was, a money
Who
grab?
they talking about?
Talking about you
her?
was there for the money. No, you was with her for the
Man,
money.
them folk ain't had no money, man. Them folk don't have them favors on the man. Them folk locked. Them folk count down 5 times. I had the check. I just ain't said nothing about it. You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Oh,
Them folk when they
were
married, they ain't had nothing else to lose. What?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they ain't had nothing else to lose. They was fucked.
Living a buddy lifestyle is what it was. That's what it was. Trying to keep up with the people in the room at work, and they making this kind of money, and you making this kind of money. You can't keep up with them. You got to stay in your circle. Whatever your circle is, whatever your bank account is reading, that's where you need to be in life.
That's what that was. I mean, this was going on before I even came along for years.
Mm-hmm.
See, so they don't want me to they don't want me to go through all.
Keep your mouth off of Shirley Strawberry. How dare you sit up with this woman's husband and talk to him, talking about her, and this fool sit up? I mean, has he no decency? No decency. Can he just say, well, no, don't talk about my wife like that? Or he doesn't even have sense enough to say, no, because okay, we can say, now this was December the 10th that this visit was on. I can't remember if they knew by then. Yeah, they knew that the calls and all were going to be on, but they didn't know about the visits. But it still is a sign that says all visits are monitored and recorded. So why are you having that call? That's that conversation period. Because guess what? The prosecutors, they can pull that and look at your visits. So this man is just incriminating himself back to back to back. Hey, let's talk about it, said, sure was him. We did hear him. You did, and she know he said she was there. But we supposed to be the dumb ones.
All that, and to me that's petty shit. I'm talking about what's going on right now.
The most important thing to address, and that's all I'm trying to address, is the case. I don't really give a fuck about all of the who fucking who things. And I had to go off on another person because she was saying something. Oh, I'm a liar, just and the other. I told her, ain't nobody's business who I fuck. Definitely not yours. I don't know you. So if I'm lying or telling the truth about who I fuck, that's my business and whoever I'm dealing with.
It's complicated, said Nesto was born a criminal with warrant. Hey, let's talk about it all, said she will lie for him. Yes, she would. And they do both lie bad. If somebody invites you on the show, okay, first of all, you say you're going on there to talk about this man's case. You had no documents, you had no binder, no folder, no pocket thing. You had absolutely nothing in front of you to talk to Tisha K about this man's case, and then you don't want to address who you're sleeping with and who you're not. That is the whole point. As a matter of fact, that's what makes the interview juicy and get you more views and bring more attention to his case. If you just go on there and be honest, of course, we wouldn't be dragging him the way that he gets dragged in these streets. If she had just made herself disappear and not be so vocal and come all on YouTube recording her own calls.
So don't worry
Damn.
about that. Oh, hey. I was like, everybody worried about that. That's all y'all worried about is who's sleeping with who. Really? Get some business. Get some business.
Wow.
And it's all because they can't sleep with no goddamn body.
So what? So how much is Buddy going for? The one just came out in November. K. What are you going for? KR. The KR.
You talking about?
Let me tell you something. I don't know why she thinks she is so fine. And I don't think why she thinks other women are undesirable. I have, there are some men who have specific preferences, and there are some men who don't care. I mean, that's just how it works. Because I can tell you, when I was well over 300 pounds, I didn't have a problem. So, that doesn't, just because that's not your taste, doesn't mean that wouldn't be somebody else's taste. And here again, you look like a lollipop. You have a big head, no edges, and a small body.
Kelly.
Yeah, the singer.
What are you going for?
He just trying to. Oh, I don't know the money amount. I don't know the money amount, but he's suing United States prisons.
Yeah.
And lost.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is this phone system can be sued because why would you release phone records to a blogger to put on an open case? It's one thing if the case was closed, but this is an ongoing case.
It's what we call the Freedom of Information Act, and the case does not have to be resolved to play these calls. They play them in court, and the case isn't resolved yet. So, I mean, whether we get them directly through a FOIA or whether we get them by recording the trial, we get them.
And you fucked up the narrative of this case. You're jeopardizing his freedom, calling excessive stress and anxiety due to the fact that what's going on outside because of these phone calls. It wasn't bad before the phone calls got released. It was just little. It was just little whatever. But as soon as y'all let them people release.
Yes, it was, because I can name you several content creators that you all probably don't even know about in different sectors that was reporting on this long before the phone calls were released. That is what made me go and start listening to the phone calls, because there are other people who I watch who, they do like 15, 20-minute videos, and it would be about the case, his charges. So when these calls came out, that's why I went to hear them. It wasn't necessarily because it was Shirley Strawberry's husband. It was because of the things that I heard, the allegations, and that's what made me search for them and listen to them. That's it. That has nothing to do with anything. They're not poisoning the minds. And when they do, voir dire, when they're picking jurors for the case, they ask questions. What do you know about this case? What do you know about Ernest Whitney? What do you do? Have you heard the jail calls? I'm sure will be one of the questions. So I don't understand why she just thinks the whole state of Georgia is going to be poisoned because these calls were released. It's complicated, said AI does not recognize mush mouths. I'm telling you, ask Bank. She can tell you.
Some phone calls, for monetary gain, and then
No, not just that. When they got down and put that shit on that video, that's when it started. It was the video, then the phone calls.
The first hearing. That's who did that. That was Storm Monroe who did that. He was the one who did that first thing with the video from court.
It's called Zoom court, something that has been around for many years, but it mainly became really popping when the pandemic hit. And if you go look, Judge Manning, she is on there every day after 5. Sometimes she's there in the afternoon for motions. But other than that, Zoom court has been going on for some years now.
He was the first person that did that.
Is he still around now?
That's who I contacted yesterday because he's not, and he's the one that did the stuff on Steve Harvey. He's just, I believe he's straight. I don't know because I didn't want to go on no gay person's thing because they just as messy as women.
It don't sound like he's straight.
If your goal is to bring light to this man's case, who cares if the person that you are speaking to is gay or straight or bisexual? Who cares? Your goal is to speak about this man's case, and that's what you should be doing, speaking about his case, not concerning yourself with the sexuality of the host. I don't think so, Sonia. And I mean, I don't know anybody else, and I don't mean no harm, but who said Storm Monroe wasn't messy? Who said that?
I don't know. If he's in Atlanta.
So why would he do that? Why would he try to damage me like that?
Well, no. He does everything. I look at his page. He does everything. He hasn't done a story on this situation in a long time. So he's not like those other bloggers that just keep coming at us. You know what I'm saying? Like just 20 different uploads of me and you. He hasn't said anything in a minute. I couldn't find anything, and I didn't go. But I went back, but I didn't go too back. But he talks about everything. Everything. So that's why I was like trying to go back to him because he does report on everything, and he's not just focused on this case, which is trying to bash the situation, like them 3-4 girls.
I don't know how many subscribers Storm Monroe has, but I know he has a lot. What I do know is Tasha K has over 1 million, and you were on her platform and you mucked that up so bad. So I don't know what you thought you would accomplish if Storm Monroe did give you the time of day.
Girls that just keep coming on talking mad shit.
Shit, but he did bash me though. He did bash me.
He didn't bash. He just brought it out. I got to look at it and see. I don't think he. Yeah. Well, I don't think he was as negative. Let's say this, as the rest of them, because the rest of them was stupid negative.
Oh, okay. So when you gonna work on the main thing tomorrow? I'm talking about.
Is he talking about the GoFundMe?
I'm talking about the lawyer.
The lawyer.
The lawyer for
First thing in the morning.
Okay.
Did you find a name? Because I didn't find a name.
No, I'm gonna look for it tonight. I'm gonna scroll that shit. That shit. These months flying by now. I ain't gonna lie to you because I started looking last night. I said, "Damn, I don't remember when you sent it to me, but I think it was in May or June. So it might have been May or June. But I'm gonna look.
Let's talk about it all. Says they slow. The judge is still doing it to this day. The judge letting people watch it. So what are y'all talking about? Peppermint Patty says, now you have to look at it again. She probably didn't look at it all the first time. I think she played a little bit of it for him, but I don't believe she looked at it from beginning to end. And another thing about, Zoom court. Yes, it's on YouTube. So we see more of it and we're exposed to a lot of different states. But these proceedings are public. So say, for example, whether his hearing was held on Zoom court or whether it was held in the actual court and it wasn't on Zoom, the word still gets out. I mean, look, people are getting Rule 22s and recording things. And not only that, the last, I think, was it the time before last, or when the R.I.C.O case came out, all kinds of public publications did stories on it. So, people, the information's going to get out. It may not be like as spread without us seeing these things on YouTube, but the information would have got out one way or the other.
Okay.
Yeah, I listen. So you call a boy back with the deep voice? Yeah.
No, I didn't talk to him. I'm gonna send him a text and see how he feel. And I just want him to do it. And I'll tell him, I'm like, he can do a little thing and just send it to me. or it can be a discussion where he just, you're his friend, you've been his friend for 30 years. You know him better than anybody because you know how boys talk, this, that, and the other, you know. And the other guy did good too because they played the phone call between me, you, and Rook. When Rook, the one that you was locked up with.
They played that too?
They played that too. That came out.
What?
And that was good because it said, he said when y'all was locked up, he said when he heard what happened about all of those charges, he said that man didn't do that. That's not him. I know he didn't do none of that stuff. I was locked up with him for 3 years, and all he did was talk business. All he did was talk about his barbershop, what he gonna do. That's all this man did was talk business. He wasn't talking about bitches, and people in prison are themselves. They let loose, they don't give a fuck.
Right.
We'll have to revisit that call. Now, I guess she's saying he said this to her personally, because on that call, I don't think I heard him say, that doesn't sound like you, or I know that's not you. I didn't hear anything like that, nor has he called him back. So this man has several movies on Amazon Prime. If he was really interested in this man's story, his life, or his situation right now, he has not reached out or made any further contact. So you tell me, is he a good character reference? And furthermore, listening to their conversation, all it told me is that he is apparently a reformed criminal, and Nesto is a habitual criminal. Criminus.
Yeah.
Wow.
They played that.
Okay.
But when you know how, let me tell you the spin they put on that, because they put a negative spin on everything. Oh, that wasn't no coincidence. She didn't just happen to run across his name and find him on Instagram. She sought him out. I'm sitting here like, you bitches, like,
sure did, and that is exactly what I think.
Are messy as fuck, for real. Y'all messy as fuck. And first of all, how would I know to seek him out? Because you was on the phone puzzled, like, who is this? Who is this? You didn't even know who he was. So if it was a planned situation, you'd have been like, okay, you found my boy. You get me? It would have been that. Right. It wouldn't have been like, who is this? Say who you are, and he.
How you doing? They call me Mo. They call me Mo says she's lying like a rug. Yeah. And we're not saying that Nesto was not surprised to hear from this man. What we were saying is you sought him out. Nesto told you something, and then that made you decide to search this man out. That's what we're saying. We're not saying that he knew about it and it was planned. We're saying that you searched him out. Peppermint Patty says that guy hasn't seen him in how many decades? Okay, really? I mean, look at him and Dre's relationship. They've known each other, as Native would say, between 30 and 36 years. It fluctuates. And Dre don't even know what's going on in his life. So do you really think that this man who was incarcerated with him for 3 years, who has apparently turned his life around and has several movies on Amazon Prime, is really checking for a Nesto? Please.
He was trying to explain how he knew you on the phone. So how do you sit there and say that was a planned situation, or I went and sought him out? Because I didn't even know y'all knew each other.
Damn.
Because you never even ever spoke about who you was in jail locked up with. You never discussed any of your bunkies, ever, ever, ever. So how would I know?
Yeah, how would you know?
You sound dumb.
Wow.
But they try to put a negative spin on everything.
But I don't think a negative when that paperwork that paperwork I'm talking about, like the R.I.C.O got, that's a different story right there. When you start seeing that everywhere, then damn, this shit's serious right now.
Can anybody tell me why he keeps referring to him as R.I.C.O? I don't know. Is that some kind of nickname he has that we don't know anything about? Sanders RN says, what are the chances that she would run into a former inmate? Yeah, she found him on Instagram. What do you mean? What would make you find him on Instagram? You ran across him. What would make you make the connection between him and Nesto? She can't explain that part.
So
Oh, they was mad because you said.
Oh, they did? Oh, I don't care. I knew they were gonna be
That's
mad
old
about that.
terminology. That's old terminology. That's
Sanders are in. This is what Victor the Veil is good at. And I was thinking about when I do these videos to try to pull up the text messages around that time. I think I will start doing that.
That's what people are our age back then. That's what it was. So
they
you're
mad
not
about that.
young.
They
So
mad
young
about
people.
that.
But you didn't bash them because of the simple fact you said I don't have nothing against anybody gay. That's what you
Right.
said. I don't have anything
Okay.
against you. Do what you want to do out here. Yada yada yada. I don't have nothing against that. But I'm not no motherfucker. That's what you said. And that's what old people say. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
old people say.
Young
Yeah.
people know what it is. You know what I'm saying? But older people, my other friend in LA, that's all he say is because his son is gay. He calls him a it all the time. That makes me sick. That's all he do is call him a.
Then there's something wrong with that father. Let me tell you something. My mother, when she passed away, she was 75 years old. And she did not refer to gay people as any kind of derogatory remark or statement. She would say gay. She never. Here's the thing. This is how you know a man is insecure about his own sexuality. When you have to constantly ask, is somebody gay? Or have a problem or say, I don't want to, I can't be friends with no gay guy. If you are a straight heterosexual man and you are not into that, why couldn't you be a friend to someone who's gay? I mean, gay people have friends too. They don't try to sleep with, just like you don't try to sleep with every woman you meet. But then again, I don't know. I'm not sure. Just because you're gay doesn't mean every gay man you come across you're going to want to sleep with. I mean, come on, really?
And he say that's that terminology.
That is that
that's
terminology.
The age. That's what it was back then in the 80s. That's what they were. Y'all went and got politically correct because now the masses is filled with this. So now don't call them that anymore. Just call them gay or trans or whatever the fuck they are. Who gives a shit?
Damn.
It is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
That's what
they
it
call
is.
each other that just like they call us bitches. That's the same thing as calling somebody a bitch.
It's the same thing.
Same fucking thing. You're a gay guy. I'm not a gay guy.
So you going to sleep tonight? Are you going to get you some sleep tonight? Because it seems like you've been running. No, you don't look tired. You don't look tired. You don't look tired now.
It's ugly outside. I'm going to go find some food. And I probably won't go anywhere tonight. I'll probably sit in the house and watch television and eat a bunch of stuff and work on your stuff and what I need to do.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love you very much. Thank you. Your eyelashes look beautiful. I like them. The right length and height and everything. Thank you. Yes, they do.
I didn't put no liner on. I just put very little makeup on.
This look good to me. You look good to me. Yeah, it's okay. I like them fingernails. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, I like them fingernails. So I guess what I'm saying is I need to get my lawsuit started immediately.
You look so much younger than your mugshot. What was you thinking that day? Because you look like an old man on that thing.
It was hot. It was hot as a motherfucking night. That super tan. I was drained.
I'm sitting here like, oh my God. And they keep putting this picture up. I'm like, oh, y'all know y'all can put better pictures up.
Man, this all that matter right now to me. All that other stuff I don't care about none of that.
It's all about your freedom. That's all that matters.
That's it. That's all. So I'm ready for that. I'm gonna look up that thing today and don't let them twist you on that.
I'll text your son and tell him to meet me, run into me today because I gotta go over to the townhouse real quick and do a walkthrough because today is the last day before I turn over possession of the townhouse.
Yeah, you might need to call him. All that text and stuff. This ain't no time for all that. Yeah, this ain't
okay.
Yeah,
right, because he might not respond.
Yeah, because three people got shot and killed in Buckhead this weekend. Yeah, so about some weed and shit. So,
Right.
you know,
That's the
you got to
bookends
call.
ghetto.
You just don't know what's going on right now. So you got to call. You don't want to say, well, he not responded. So,
I'll call
yeah.
him.
But okay, yeah. But this right here, this is it's time. And you know when people gonna try to jump on that shit for that, I know they waiting on somebody to call them.
Well, hopefully I
So
can find a criminal lawyer that can do. I'm gonna ask the guy who I talked to see if he do civil. The one who
no,
I
you
want
don't
to take
deal
care
with
of.
that. You got to deal with somebody who only do that, who only deals
They
with
only
that.
deal with civil.
That's it. You don't need to be mixing that shit up because that you're gonna
Hungry
lose.
Caucasian.
Yeah.
All right, I'll find a
Yeah.
hungry Caucasian for that.
You know, it's interesting. That's why they have. I don't want a criminal attorney. I know there's such thing as dual practices, but I don't want someone who is a criminal attorney representing me civilly. I wouldn't want that because to me, a civil attorney would know all the loopholes and the things that they need to know to benefit me. A criminal lawyer might not have that same knowledge if that's not his only focus. And why does he have to be white? I mean, come on. They call me Mosif, fingernails. Hey, Stacy, that first twin. She says on the 15th of September, she will be 56 years dumb.
Yeah.
I reached out
Understand
to
what's going on.
Michael, the guy I interviewed with, because that's all they do is lawsuits, and he didn't reach back. But I'll find somebody.
Yeah. You got to get top notch for that. You can't play around with that. So and that ain't gonna cost you nothing.
No,
They're just gonna nothing. So that proceed out of that, then you got something to work with. And they give you bonuses for the shit even get started. You do know that, right?
No, I didn't.
That happened. He's talking about, you know, how if you are applying for like social security benefits or some type of workman's comp or something, and they kind of can give you a pre like pay you in advance for what you might be getting, but no one who you're suing civilly for violating your rights or harassment or whatever he thinks he's suing for, they're not going to give you money in advance because they don't know if they can recoup that money from you. Now, if it's an accident or something like that, disability or whatever, they know it's a possibility they're going to recoup that money. But you can't go and sue somebody and they give you in advance. That is not going to happen. Hey, talks with TK. And she talks with TK, says she looks every bit of 56.
No.
Yeah, they give you bonuses and shit before the shit get started. But I love you very much.
I love you.
If they figure they got something, they give you a bonus.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and turn notifications on so you don't miss the next one.
Okay. Yeah, it's so rough dealing with this chick and listening to her idiotic responses and theories and analogies and all of that. Stacy, that first twin, said, I'm glad I woke up. Hey, Legacy Moon in chat. I'm glad you woke up too. We are getting ready to get on out of here. I do truly appreciate those of you who came and participated on the panel, who were here in this live because you could have been anywhere else, including sleep, but you were here with me. And I certainly appreciate you being here tonight. Now, if you missed the live that we did last night, you might want to go and get into it because we all cut up. They was cutting up so bad in the chat, and Native and I were cutting up, but Native was in rare form. So that's something that you might want to check out. And then going over there to Native, he did this morning, this afternoon, he did a little Saturday chit chat check in, and it was very interesting. So that is all that I have for y'all. I'll be on tomorrow because guess what, y'all? The Bible lady, go over there to my community wall and look at the shenanigans that was going over there in Delusionalville this evening. Go over there and check that out. And we will probably be doing some Bible lady. I do want to come on and do some law and crime stuff, like in the afternoon, and then a little bit after dark. Well, not after dark, but when it gets later, do some messy stuff. So that's what is going to be going on tomorrow. I'm getting ready to drop this beat. I want to tell you all good night. Be safe. Thank you again for the panelists. And thank you for being here. Thank you so much to all my wonderful mods. And I will see you tomorrow.